ran my offices. She get up at 4:30, and I get up at 9:30.
Make it an hour. I've been up 5 hours.
That's right.
Where are flags?
They're on the flags.
He's at that 4:30 as well.
Where are the flags, Lionel?
That was over there.
Flags.
I'm just going to point our faces towards the Capitol, and that's it.
This is her time here. This is my time.
Leave her alone.
So he got on the treadmill and kept talking, but then he never came back.
Hey Jay,
Yes, sir.
going to London.
Are you?
Yeah, 9:45
Today?
tonight.
Tonight? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Is it direct?
Nice.
Yeah, DFW's got great flights.
Oh, so you're out of.
I gotta
you're
drive
leaving
back,
here.
and I gotta get out at 2 in case there's some pilot on the way.
Has Dallas had any TSA issues or?
No, we got. There's just a lot of TSP that we've got. Now we're leaving down 45 minutes, which is
That's perfect.
plus
Yes. All the way over.
we get in about 10:30. There's 3 o'clock, 5, 7:45, 9:45, and 10:30.
Yeah, mine are out Friday and Monday.
Also,
I didn't know that. I'd be doing a ribbon cutting tomorrow morning.
well, we're getting.
Everybody
Right,
just-
right.
Well, it's good because you know that when first
Yeah.
it's all good done.
That's nice.
Is the coffee done or?
Yeah. So the beer.
That's awesome. He made this show called It's like the sphere.
Do they know where they're going to grab it from? Or is this just open?
We can't change that.
Okay.
They're not allowed to grab it.
It's that or black.
Oh, yeah. They do the concert for
Concerts out of
Oh, that's really cool.
the ground.
Nancy's got
Tell your
fun.
kids not to.
We're not running.
Nancy's got
No
fun.
truth for them to need.
Hi, friends.
Well, no, so many things.
All these billions of dollars and they still can tell.
And then also she's like, what's going on with your mom? And we're like,
There are a few
her
hotels.
mother
There are a
said,
few
you
buildings that they try to
in the cage and dance.
tidy up, getting refreshed.
Oh, they did bring in the flash.
Just looks old.
There's one.
John, moved
They will have it.
and you still have some things that stand like 300 times.
I guess we're going to post the colors.
Ah, very good.
Exactly.
Somebody came. See, got that.
Staff will post the colors.
You're the military fella. You can do it.
I hear it, Rick.
Back over here. Yeah, and that one goes over here. No, it goes over here. You were, yeah, you were right. I was wrong. Yeah. I'm just going back.
Something behind you guys. That would have been a good look. Man, good catch.
You know, they were always there. They used to give the credit for what they did. Because they would go as their brothers. Mom and dad would only take some of those. They just never got the.
Okay.
Oh, it's late. It's time to go work.
Okay. Are you rolling on the? Ready? Okay. Good morning. I hereby call to order the meeting of the Governing Board of the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs. It is 10:04 a.m. on October 9th, 2025. I applaud everyone for finding the building and finding the room. Do roll call first, Mr. Marchant. Ms. Farias.
There.
Ms. Conroy,
Here.
Mr. Thomas.
Here.
Mr. Harper.
Here.
And I am here, full house. As usual, we'll start out with the salute to our flags, which are present, led by Mr. Wilkinson.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right. Gotta get used to these new chairs. Everyone, they got the same ones, right? Like I said. Okay, the consent agenda, I believe we have item 12 is pulled from the consent agenda. So are there any other items in the consent that a board member wishes to, or member of the public wishes to move to action? If not, I will entertain a motion on the consent agenda excluding item 12.
Mr. Chairman?
Wait, I'm sorry. What was the problem?
Which item is the home park?
Isn't that 12? Bear with us for a moment. 7? So we're pulling 7, not 12, or 7 and 12?
I don't know about 12.
12 was
Okay, by Cody. Okay, so 7 and 12.
Is it 7? Okay.
We
have a bit of
7. Okay. Do I hear 8? Do I hear 8? Okay. Okay. 7 and 12 are pulled. Ms. Sylvester will.
Megan Sylvester, Deputy General Counsel. They're being pulled from the agenda, not from just from the consent agenda. Withdrawn from the agenda. 5 and 12.
Okay, we're not going to take any action on 7 or 12 today.
7 and 12, yes.
Thank you. Okay. With that clarification, does anyone care to make a motion regarding adoption of the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, since items 7 and 12 have been withdrawn from the agenda, I move the board approve items 1 through 6 and 8 through 11 and 13 as described and presented in the respective board action requests and reports.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Faria, seconded by Mr. Harper. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Moving right along to the Executive Director report. Mr. Wilkinson.
Good morning, Chairman and Board. Seems to be a lot of conferences lately. Our compliance team has been busy attending and presenting. In mid-September, Kara Polloy presented at the Southwestern Affordable Housing Management Association fall meeting in San Antonio. She educated the audience about HOTMA changes and how the department is monitoring for those changes. She also addressed tax credit applications, the QAP, and LURAs. Also in mid-September, Compliance Manager Amy Hammond spoke at the TALFA conference about our new HFC rules relating to House Bill 21. Scott Fletcher was also at that conference. And then last week, both Wendy Quackenbush and Amy attended and presented at the National Costello Compliance 2025 Summit, which was held in San Antonio. Related, I just got back from New Orleans in the National Council of State Housing Agencies annual conference. We took about a handful of TDHCA staffers, 7 or so. Good sessions. Sean Donovan spoke, head secretary under Obama. I had forgotten he was also director of OMB after that. So maybe the only Hauser that'll ever hold that role. But he did a great job. Real kind of steered us to the middle on things. It was great. Met some good, banking contacts, good sessions, and met our new marketing team for single family bond finance, happy medium. They were great. Finally, like many people, we are closely watching the federal government shutdown. For this month and probably next, HUD says that we're fine with our funding. All our draws are going through. If the shutdown stretches into December, then we might have to move some money around. We'll see how it goes. And that does it for my comments today.
Okay, great. So thus far, the shutdown hasn't
No effect so far.
impacted us. Good. Any other questions for Mr. Wilkinson on the Executive Director's report? Hearing none, let's move right along on the agenda. Item 15, report on the closing of the Department's Residential Mortgage Revenue Bond Series 2025 Series D. Mr. Fletcher.
Good morning. Thank you. Scott Fletcher, Deputy Executive Director of Housing Finance.
Yep. Oh, congratulations, Scott.
Congratulations
Is this the first
on
time
it.
we've been here after the title change? Yeah.
Well, he skipped out the last one.
Yeah, he's traveling. Yeah.
Wow. So let's see. I did have prepared remarks on this. Apologies. There we go. All right. RMRB 25D. On October 10th of 24, Board approved the blanket issuance for fiscal year 2025 in an amount not to exceed $1.1 billion. At the July 27th board meeting, the department reported our intent to issue RMRB Series 25D tax-exempt bonds in the amount of $250 million. The bonds were priced on August 12th and August 13th. And closed on September 16th. Financing team was led by Jefferies as lead underwriter. Our ratings, Moody's AA1, AA by S&P, and the purpose for the issuance, the proceeds will be used to purchase Ginnie Mae mortgage-backed certificates, provide down payment assistance, and closing cost assistance. Structure, kind of a standard structure, doing all tax exempt. Bonds are structured with par, serial, and term bonds, and an $85 million, 5.5-year average life premium PAC bond with 75 to 500 bands. Arbitrage yield on the deal 4.657. 4.657. Department collected $9.5 million in premium. Issuer contribution was $4.2 million, but we made an adjustment since from the original amounts, 3.7 ended up being the issuer contribution. The loans, department is offering 3 and 4% down payment assistance loans, as well as a 0% DPA unassisted loan. Rates are currently 5 3/4 for the unassisted loans, 6% on the 3% loans, and 6 1/8 for the 4% DPA loans, with the targeted area loans being priced an eighth lower than that. As of October 1st, these funds are about 70% reserved. Your board packet includes a detailed summary of the pricing that was prepared by Jefferies, and that really concludes my remarks on this, and welcome and expect questions.
So where are rates going to move?
That's not the question I expected. No, we're obviously we have one rate cut. The conversations are one or two more here this year. I think probably one, and then we'll continue to see rate cuts or anticipate seeing rate cuts through 2026. I think the driver here not only is Fed funds rate, but what's going to happen on the 10-year. And what's going to happen with mortgage rates. And I think, we move, I don't think anyone's expecting a huge drop off in the mortgage rates. So we're thinking, maybe we start seeing some 5s, but I don't think anyone's really predicting we're going to start seeing 4s anytime in 2026.
Okay, great. Any questions for Mr. Thomas?
Mr. Fletcher, how are you?
Good. How are you, sir?
Good. In the backup material for this agenda item, it says that from our original scale, we ultimately on the PAC bonds paid 20 basis points higher than we originally anticipated. That seems like a pretty substantial adjustment. Can you kind of give us some background as to why that happened?
Absolutely. It was certainly a disappointing result. I think Jefferies will agree that it was a disappointing result. I think the biggest disappointment in that is just that the read was off, as much as it was. In kind of retrospect, we've really kind of looked out at the market. We've talked to issuers. We've talked to investors. We've looked at our own structure. We're looking at the language in our pay down structure and our waterfall of the pay downs at higher speeds. And we've really concluded, that we'll take some of this on ourselves in that we need to do a better job of providing color and publishing our pack tables, not pack tables, but our prepayment speeds. And we are working on putting those on the website ahead of our next deal, which we're kind of anticipating January. We've had multiple conversations, not only with our FA, but all of our issuer, our underwriting team members, and it's certainly been a part of the conversation. There's some concerns, I think, that have been out there in terms of coverage that day, people on vacation, people didn't hear. In hindsight, in looking at that, it was probably less of a driver than the concerns over what happens at faster prepay speeds if we get 700. But if you look historically at Texas prepay speeds on FHA loans, you'll be hard pressed to find a number even close to 700. And so we're going to do a better job of communicating that. We are planning on doing not only a lot more transparency around our structures. I am not going to commit to keeping up pack tables. We have tremendously slow prepayment speeds, and it's part of the game, and I think people can make those choices. But I think if we do a better job communicating, how we approach, we also have not started cross-calling yet, and so having that conversation with those investors, and I think at the end of the day, Mr. Thomas, there's so much volume right now because of what's happened with rates, and you just look at this massive increase in volume in mortgage bonds, and if investors have two choices, they're going to take the cleanest bond every time. And so we have not, we're not feeling like this is going to be a pattern. We feel like this is an anomaly. And so it was a disappointing result, but the Jeffries team has also done a lot of work in terms of analyzing our past issuance, not only the deals that they've underwritten, but all of our deals for the past 7 years, looking at who the buyers are, looking at whether they still hold the bonds, looking at who's buying the bonds in the secondary market. So we're really analyzing that investor base and trying to increase transparency to that investor base and doing outreach to that investor base.
So some of it is, I certainly recognize some of it is structural, kind of what we do programmatically and how we structure our deals in the marketplace. 20 basis points was a significant miss, right, from the original scale that committed to, because looking at in the backup material, you look at the syndicate price views, they're all fairly in line. So each underwriter in the syndicate thought that the market was where it was, despite the fact, I understand some of the structure on the pack, the shape of the yield curve, and without getting too technical into it, we missed a little bit versus 6 and it priced that way. But, I understand from a little unfair, but I get to talk to a lot of different housing agencies, obviously. We're used as a pretty good example, and people are taking a little tougher stance about underwriters making commitments and following through with those when they say that they've got reads and they have things. What I noticed is we went ahead, we were pretty benevolent and still paid the management fee to the syndicate. I think in a situation like this going forward, I'd like to see that up for discussion and like you having the ability to just pull that. I mean, if the syndicate gave you a bad misread, then paying them a management fee on top of what you're paying them in takedown seems a little excessive, right? So you can make some adjustments that way.
I see your point, and I absolutely do not disagree. It will certainly be something that that I will take to heart and present. I'm not planning on this happening again. But I think there are two other factors here. One is we have really good performance on our term bonds, and when you look at the actual impact on the yields on the deal, it was less than 5 basis point impact on the overall deal. So, not a good result on the PAC bond. PAC's the majority of the deal. PAC drives the deal. But when you actually stop and do the math, it was not that impactful in terms of the overall yield. I mean, every basis point counts, right? But that was part of the consideration in terms of.
I mean, we accomplished the objective. We did what we need to do to help provide low cost, subsidies and loans. And to your point, the impact ultimately, it was somewhat mitigated, so that's fine. And not every deal can be a great deal, but you can learn from these, right? And figure out what you need to do to get better. I sort of, biased. I think Texas has a big T on their chest when they enter the market, especially TDHCA, and we should get the best out of it when we comp and compare to other state HFAs that are out there in a given period that's relevant in the time. And this one was a little bit more concerning that we didn't get what we thought we would get, but good job in getting it through. It is a difficult market. That was a difficult market period with a lot of volume, and you got it accomplished. So I think at the end of the day, all said and done, we came out okay. But I think you can afford to be tougher on the underwriters. I think you should hold them accountable. If they give you on the pricing call a scale, and they say that this is the scale that they're committed to. That's why we hire underwriters, is to underwrite bonds at those levels and make them aware that you're going to take them at that level if you commit to that, especially the book runner. Thank you. That's all the questions I had.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. I like the way you think. Any other questions, comments? So this item 15 is a report item, so thank you for that report. Moving on to item 16, I want to know who wrote this caption. So,
Our counsel is here.
okay. Deep breath. Okay. Item 16, presentation, discussion, and possible action regarding resolution number 26-001, authorizing the issuance and sale and delivery of TDHCA single-family mortgage revenue bonds or residential mortgage revenue bonds in one or more series and installments, approving the form and substance of related documents, authorizing the execution of documents and instruments necessary or convenient to carry out the purposes of this resolution, and containing other provisions relating to the subject. Next time, let's just say possible action relating to resolution number 26-001. Mr. Fletcher, now that I've described what this is all about, you can
just
re-describe.
read my verbal.
Okay, yes.
So,
Okay.
I think we're good there. No, we do this. We've done this each of the past 3 years. This will be the third year where we ask for blanket authorization. This year we're asking for 1.1 billion. That's the same number we've asked for the last 2 years. We've not issued over $1 billion yet. So, and looking at volumes in 24, volumes in 25, I actually anticipate that we'll be issuing a little bit more in 26 than we have the past 2 years. The mix, because of our volume cap situation, I anticipate we'll probably be issuing around $1 billion, but I anticipate about 850 million of that being tax exempt using new volume cap, and about 150 million of that tax exempt using recycled volume cap.
Nice.
So we are focused for this year on issuing 100% tax exempt because we have the volume cap, and that will also assist us in having the lowest possible rates without trying to layer some taxable paper in there. Though you could argue you would get more spread on taxable paper. We have volume cap. We're going to use it. We're going to make sure we're making mortgage loans in the state. The structures, we're not looking at any major changes in structures. We're looking at a little bit more transparency. We're looking at getting additional guidance on each time we issue packs. We're looking for making changes on our language around our packs. We're starting to see a little less demand for lower bands, and not really seeing pressure for higher bands quite yet. But we anticipate issuing kind of in the same pattern that we have on this last deal, par term bonds, par serial bonds, par term bonds, and we're probably going to be looking to get a little bit less premium on our packs this year. We'll probably be in a little bit better liquidity situation for 2026. Same mission, same purposes, same process in terms of pooling and buying Ginnie Mae backed mortgage-backed securities into our indenture. Really no major changes from what we've been doing. And then that closely marks and staff requests board approval. Yeah.
Great. Any questions from board members on this item? I just want to say, actually, also, we appreciate yesterday's presentation at the Single Family Committee meeting that we had and some of the discussion on the success we're having on recycling bond cap and putting it all back in the system. That's just fantastic, this multiplier effect. So item 16. I'll entertain a motion on item 16 of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move the board approve resolution number 26-001, authorizing the issuance, sale, and delivery of TDHCA single-family mortgage bonds, all as described, conditioned, and authorized in the board action request and resolution and associated documents on this item.
Second.
A motion made by Mr. Thomas, seconded by Mr. Harper. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 17, stay there, Scott. Presentation, discussion, and possible action regarding resolution number 26-003, authorizing the implementation of TDHCA Mortgage Credit Certificate Program 113, approving the form and substance of the program manual and the program summary, authorizing the execution of documents and instruments necessary or convenient to carry out MCC Program 113 and containing other provisions relating to the subject.
Thank you.
Talk to us, Scott.
This resolution seeks to convert $250 million in single-family volume cap to mortgage credit certificate issuance authority for the issuance of new MCCs. Additionally, the resolution seeks approval of the program manual, program summary, initial MCC rate of 20% for all loans, and the use of up to $250,000 in department funds to pay costs of implementing Program 113. Last time I think it cost around $70,000 for implementation, just for color. Mortgage credit certificates, or MCCs, are a homebuyer assistance program designed to help low to moderate income families afford home ownership. The program allows home buyers to claim a dollar for dollar tax credit equal to the annual mortgage interest paid times the MCC credit rate, which is established by the department and described herein. To be eligible for an MCC, home buyers must meet the same qualifications required for a mortgage loan funded by mortgage revenue bonds. First-time home buyer be within income and purchase price limits and occupy the property as a primary residence. The department is looking at offering two MCC options. One is a standalone MCC, where the department will issue the MCC for a mortgage loan that was originated and funded by a third-party lender, and combo loans, where the department issues the MCC for mortgage loans originated and funded through the department's TDA program. MCCs, as I discussed, require an allocation of volume cap. The department anticipates converting $250 million. That will provide about, $312.5 million in mortgage loans. We cap the amount at 20% because if we go to a 25% mortgage credit, the borrower is capped. So last time we kind of fluctuated between 15% credit and 20% credit. Our previous program was released in January 2023 and expires December 31st of this year. It used $300 million in volume cap, and the department provided approximately $400 million in mortgage loans that had MCC. We're actively managing the wind down of Program 103, and we've had to kind of turn it on and off as we've had fallout, but we're anticipating using essentially all the funds we can't go over because that would create a problem. But publication of the required public notice for MCC Program 113 will be completed prior to November 30th, 2025, and our release is scheduled for January 26th closing. Staff recommends board approval of this resolution.
Great, thank you, Scott. Any questions for Mr. Fletcher on this item? Again, we appreciate part of the discussion yesterday on the single-family programs, and MCCs are a great tool for home buyers to take advantage of. So let's keep publicizing that. Hearing no questions, I'll entertain a motion on item 17 of the agenda.
Move the board approve the resolution number 23-003. Authorize the implementation of TDHC Mortgage Credit Certificate Program 113, all as described, conditioned, and authorizing the board action request or resolution and associated documents in this item.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Harper, seconded by Ms. Farias. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Director. Moving right along, item 18 of the agenda. Presentation, discussion, and possible action regarding eligibility under TENTAC Section 11.101B1D relating to ineligibility of developments within areas of high crime for application Bernicia Place 20. Bernicia Place. I wondered why I saw you guys sitting out there before when I walked in. Okay. All right. Welcome. Glad you're here. But Ms. Morales, please tell us about this.
Good morning, Teresa Morales, Director of Multifamily Bonds. The department received a predetermination request relating to the Part 1 violent crime rate that exceeds the threshold in the rule and constitutes a neighborhood risk factor. The QAP requires disclosure if either the census tract containing the development or an adjacent tract with boundaries within 500 feet of the proposed site exceeds a Part 1 violent crime rate greater than 18 per 1,000 persons. The benchmark source that we use to determine the Part 1 violent crime rate is Neighborhood Scout. For the census tract containing the development, the crime rate is 16.42 per 1,000 persons and below the threshold. However, the adjacent tract with boundaries across the street has a Part 1 violent crime rate of 28.37. Bernicia Place is a proposed 120-unit new construction development in Houston serving the elderly population. Information provided by the applicant included ongoing crime reduction efforts of different law enforcement agencies that have jurisdiction in the area and provide services to varying degrees. The applicant focused these efforts to within City Council District D, which covers the proposed development site, but it also covers a considerable larger part of South Houston. A map of the City Council District and location of the proposed development can be found on page 661 of the board book. Basically, the long skinny track on that page is the subject tract, and the property is towards the top on Old Spanish Trail. However, the tract that's immediately to the left is the adjacent tract and the one that we're discussing today. As it relates to crime efforts in the council district, the applicant indicated that specialized teams created as a result of the One Safe Houston initiative in 2022 has resulted in a 21% decrease in violent crime from 2022 to 2023. And then between 2023 and 2024, there was a 10% increase in violent crime within this council district. And then between 2024 and to current 2025, there was a 13% decrease. There was also a letter submitted from Harris County Constable James Phillips, which can be found on page 656 of your board book, that details the crime mitigation efforts through his precinct office through a partnership with the Greater Southeast Management District, an area that covers, I believe, 30 square miles. The agreement includes 4 deputies who dedicate 80% of their time fighting crime within the Greater Southeast Management District area. And according to the applicant, there has been a 7% decrease in crime from October of 24 to August of 25. While Neighborhood Scout provides a starting point for determining the crime rate, we often request that local police beat data for the same area, as reported on Neighborhood Scout, which is at the census tract level, be submitted. Having evaluated a number of these requests over the years, typically the local police beat data will yield a crime rate below what is reported in Neighborhood Scout to the extent that the Scout data is a little outdated. In the case of Bernicia Place, the census tract in question, when looking at actual police beat data, yielded a Part 1 violent crime rate that is not only significantly higher than what is reported by Neighborhood Scout, but it has increased over the past 3 years, going from 30.95 in 2022 to 38.10 in 2024. And this can be found on page 667 of your board book. Similarly, when looking at the police beat, which covers a larger area than just the census tract, the Part 1 violent crime rate has increased from 26.42 in 2022 to 33.03 in 2024. And this can be evidenced by the letter from the chief of police, which is on page 671 in your board book. Based on the totality of the information submitted, staff recommends that the site be considered ineligible. It has not been established that the Part 1 violent crime rate is not of a nature and severity that would warrant eligibility. And given the increase in the crime rate over the past 3 years, there has not been the downward trend necessary to reasonably conclude that such rate would be below the threshold in 2 years when the proposed development would be placed in service. And this is the standard that is identified in the QAP. That is my presentation.
Great, thank you, Ms. Morales. I guess the numbers on their face speak for themselves. However, maybe there's some mitigating circumstances that we can, or plans that we can look at. Actually, I neglected at the beginning of the meeting, if anyone's going to want to speak on a subject that's coming up on the agenda, please come up here to the front couple rows as these folks have done, just so we know that you can stop me before I plow through all the motions and such. And I'll entertain a motion to have public comment in this meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I move the board allow for public comment on any agenda item that it is necessary.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Thomas, seconded by Ms. Farias. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Keith Eccles' motion carries. All right, well, does anyone have questions directly for Ms. Morales first, or could we hear from some of our speakers for speaking on district destination? Who wants to go first? And again, when you come up, please identify yourself and your organization and sign in on the sign-in sheet there, where we have a timer, right? Okay, so what, 3-minute timers for everyone. If someone else has said what you are about to say, you don't have to repeat it all. You can say, I agree, and we'll note that.
Good morning, board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm Dominique King, the Director of Real Estate Development for the Harris County Housing Authority. Seated here today is our Executive Director, Melissa Kondo. We're here to present the Enhanced Safety and Security Plan for Benicia Place.
Could you turn the microphone down a little bit towards you?
Of course.
Thank you.
Benicia Place was birthed at the request of various stakeholders seeking a mixed-use, transit-oriented development within the OST Palm Center community on property owned by the Houston Metro Transit Authority, resulting in a one-of-a-kind partnership between the Harris County Housing Authority and Metro. Benicia Place benefits from immense community support and governmental funding, having been awarded $10 million from the Texas General Land Office and $4 million from the City of Houston. The Harris County Housing Authority is deeply committed to ensuring safe and secure housing for our seniors. It is important to note that there has been a decline in crime stats in the census tract where Benicia Place is located. The census tract fully meets the department's threshold. It is adjacent census tracts that have brought us here today. Benicia Place has strong support from stakeholders that are actively investing in the stability and the positive trajectory for safety and security in the community. Over the past 7 years, the Harris County Housing Authority has engaged with the Southeast Management District, the OST Community Partnership, and Metro in the planning of Benicia Place. The Southeast Management District has an agreement with the Harris County Constables Precinct 7, whereas officers are assigned to the district exclusively and are actively patrolling the surrounding community. Metro PD patrols the adjacent train station and surrounding areas. The development will benefit from overlapping and targeted patrols from multiple law enforcement agencies. Here today, we have officers from Precinct 7 and officers from Metro PD. The officers are available to discuss the safety plans and efforts currently in place and how Bernicia Place will be incorporated in the patrols. In addition to the targeted patrols by the 2 law enforcement agencies, Bernicia Place will have an enhanced security plan that includes a robust assortment of security devices as well as private security patrol. This will ensure Bernicia Place is protected at all times. An effective safety and security plan requires thoughtful planning and adequate funding. Bernicia Place will provide over $1 million towards the on-site private security patrols alone. The funding will be in addition to the cost and funding of the numerous security devices. Javon Harris will present next and will provide a summary of the enhanced security plan and security devices being proposed for Bernicia Place. The Harris County Housing Authority is requesting that the board allow the development to proceed and that measures described be required as part of the development in Delora. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Keel, right?
Ms. Keaton.
Keaton.
K-I-N-G.
King, okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. King. Who's next?
Good morning. My name is Javon Harris. I'm with Suburban Realty. We're a development consultant and advisor for Peninsula Place in the Housing Authority. My role is to actively work with the designers through the planning and designing and permitting phase. From my very early involvement in this development, the first time sitting down with Dominique and the design team, safety and security was front and center, and it's been a major part of the design focus throughout the process. The Housing Authority has known for a while that it would be submitting for a tax credit development, and understanding the requirements associated with the threshold and what challenges that would bring. So there's been components incorporated into the plan from the beginning. And those things are in addition to the efforts Dominique and the team at the Housing Authority has made to go out to the public, find collaborations with the organizations that are already invested in the community, and figuring out how to leverage those investments along with the investments that they'll be making. Those investments will include an enhanced security plan, whereas there will be private security patrol. The Housing Authority is prepared to commit at least or up to $78,000 a year from either OpEx or cash flow to fund private security exclusively for Peninsula Place.
I'm sorry to interrupt. So repeat again, where are the source of those funds? Is that from?
Operations.
Of the Housing Authority?
Of the development.
Of the development?
Of the development.
They're going to have $78,000 extra. Okay, I'm sorry, continue. I just want to be sure.
So they're committing up to $78,000 a year for private patrols at the property, and as Dominique indicated, would propose to make that part of the development program and make that part of the LURA. In addition to that, there are numerous security devices that are part of the plans and the specs for the development. Those include devices at the property perimeter and building perimeters, including full perimeter fencing, video surveillance of the roadways, video surveillance of remote areas around the property and behind the buildings. At the vehicular entry, the vehicular gate will have controlled access. There will be video surveillance at the gates that will have cameras and plate readers to see what cars come and go. The leasing office will have controlled access, video surveillance, and a security alarm system. The amenity areas will have controlled access, video surveillance, and security. The elevators will be equipped with Wi-Fi hotspots so that there could be constant, consistent video surveillance of the elevators. The mail center will be locked with controlled access and video surveillance. All of the building entries will have controlled access and cameras. And all of the corridors, all throughout the corridors on all 4 floors, will have multiple cameras, video surveillance, looking in each and every direction. The controlled access will be via card readers and fobs, and then the video surveillance will be Wi-Fi enabled cameras, which will allow both the on-site management staff to view those cameras at all times. And then those cameras can also, because there will be Wi-Fi enabled, those cameras can also be monitored remotely by management staff and staff at the housing authority. We feel that the overlay with partnerships with the constable's office, the Metro PD being next door and having its own police department and patrolling the property and the area, as well as the on-site private patrols, will provide a very safe and secure community for Venice Place.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Harris. Did you just say that the Metro PD is next door?
Oh, I'm sorry if we didn't. So this development is a partnership between the Housing Authority and Metro PD. The property is currently owned by Metro PD as a part of a transit station. Part of that property is being developed for the housing, and the transit station obviously will stay. But this is a joint effort between the two, between the Housing Authority and Metro PD. I mean, and Metro. Right. But Metro has its own police department,
right,
that patrols, and I believe their representatives here that can speak more to that. But Metro PD has its own police department that patrols the transit station.
Right. Okay. All right. I'll save some questions for them. Do any board members have questions for Mr. Harris?
I'll wait until the end.
Yeah. Let's.
I actually have. She mentioned 10 million from GLO. What
Yes,
is that?
there's a $10 million commitment from the GLO and a $4 million committed funds from the city of Houston. Tommy can speak more to that if needed.
Okay.
So there's $14 million of soft funds that are committed to this development.
Okay. Thank you. Well, let's hear from a couple more speakers here. Sir.
Good morning. My name is Holland Jones. I am here on behalf of Constable James Smokey Phillips, the Precinct 7 Constable's Office. I've been with the Constable's Office about 17, 18 years now. I'm the administrative captain, subject matter expert, and I'm a lawyer also, so I provide some type of internal quality control. And I also have a PhD, which helps us with quality control and data and how to process data. I'm here to personally and on behalf of my agency and my boss to ask the board to accept the waiver and grant the waiver. We understand what we're asking you to do, but I can assure you that we have a partnership with all of the entities involved. The Greater Southeast Management District has the ability under the Texas Local Government Code to contract with supplemental public safety services, and that's exactly what we do. Prior to my ascension to captain, I was the neighborhood contract patrol commander. And what we do and what we have is now a contract with 4 deputies for a 24-hour, 7 days a week supplemental patrol. I will be in charge of that area to make sure that our guys do what they're supposed to do. There are some things that we focus on because I think I've heard the body speak of mitigation factors, some of the things that will drive down or have an effective crime reduction effect. Enhanced visibility, community engagement, crime deterrence, not only just in the commercial area, but in the residential area as well, and the reduction of response times. One of the things that I think that we don't take a look at is the perception of crime. If you want to retain business, if you want people to feel safe, they want to feel that when they're in our neighborhood that they feel safe. And that if you grant this waiver, we will assure you that Precinct 7 Constable's Office will continue to do our job that we contracted to do already, and that we understand that the granting of the waiver doesn't mean that crime doesn't exist. It just means that we have exceptional mitigation policies and procedures and programs in effect to help drive down crime. Now, in closing, I did review some of the data. I also reviewed the 116-page packet that you received. And what I saw in District D, Councilmember Evan Shabazz district, is a reduction in sexual assaults, a reduction in crime and robberies by 18%, aggravated assaults reduction by 13%, human trafficking by 40%, auto theft by 22%, burglary by 13%. And to me, this shows that there's a trend downward. Now, I did hear the previous speaker say that there's maybe some difficulty in the next couple of years to sustain this trend, but I can assure you that we have competent people. We have competent people that are diligent. We have an already in place for over 10 years working relationship with the Greater Southeast Management District, and that I believe that we can get the job done if we have the faith in us in terms of our organization and our ability to fight crime. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you for that. I try to address you as constable, captain, doctor, which are all of the above. I mean, yeah, that's
smart.
I mean,
Thank you for that. So I think my boss, James Phillips, constable, Precinct 7, this is important to our community, and it was necessary to, I'm going to put this, send his big guns, his most qualified to come and speak before you and ask you for this request and endorse what they're trying to do. And so I think that we could have mailed in, we could have emailed, text messaged some of you, but I think the most important thing is that we put boots on the ground to look you in your eyes and tell you that we will support this. Please, on behalf of our community that we serve, grant this waiver.
And we genuinely appreciate you and your colleagues taking time out to come in. It is much more effective when we're able to have this conversation. But let me ask a question on your statistics. Again, in business and finance, I always say that, one data point does not a trend make, okay? So, and part of our problem, I think, is we're analyzing this, a drop of 17% or something in the rate is great, but the problem is where you're starting from. That percentage drop from that high number is still a high number. I mean, that's where we're trying to, I think, at least I'm personally have some.
So, first of all, that's a very good question. I did the research, and what the crime waiver for the waiver for crime rate, I think the scholarship says that we're not to say that there's no crime, and we always have a starting point. The key issue based on my research was, do we have significant mitigation strategies in place that have proven to be successful? So based on the data that in your packet that I received, there is a downward trend. And I think with the amount of resources, I did my analysis, I did not know the significant contributions that the other stakeholders are contributing specifically towards the safety of this particular track. And the further research that I found is that it's not the actual track that's in violation. It's a adjacent track, consensus track, if I understand it. And so I think with these overlapping, I think in some cases duplication, because that's what we need to drive down crime sometimes. We need people to feel that if you commit a crime in our neighborhood, that we will catch you, we will prosecute you, and we'll take action against you. And so that's the environment that we're trying to create, and especially with a vulnerable population as our elders in our community. In Precinct 7, our elders are beloved. That's one of the reasons why we are here too. That's why I'm here to personally have a conversation.
Okay, any other questions for Ms. Farias?
Thank you for coming, sir.
No problem, ma'am.
I was on the other table when the three of you were talking on that other table. I'm the person that gets here about an hour in advance. My concern is the following. Like you, I have many titles. I grew up in housing projects, and I ran the housing projects where I grew up. Came back home after 25 years because the thugs and the criminals and drug dealers had taken over. And the first thing I had to do was convince my board that I needed security at night, patrol. And one thing I know is it takes a lot of money. And I know that you mentioned $78,000 in operations to put into that. That's really not enough money. I'm right, 78,000. So far, based on what I heard, and also his presentation of everything that's going to happen inside once you build, once the security measures, once this and that, all of that sounds great if, in fact, it's done. And a lot of times we're faced with promises and then it doesn't happen. And also my biggest concern on this is you're dealing with the elderly. So I have not yet decided which way I'm going to vote. But if you get the waiver and a few years from now it's found out things weren't done and the crime persisted, you really make it very difficult for others that come in, because that's how you and I, by the looks, have been around a long time. That's how people become cynical. And my biggest concern here is the elderly. So I need a little bit more convincing. I mean, I'm just one vote, so probably have the votes, but
If I may respond to
absolutely.
First, I want to say that I also grew up in the section of housing.
Thank you.
I understand the socioeconomic challenges that a underserved population has. And we are a new administration. My boss took office January 1st of this year. We think highly of our elderly population. That's one reason why I'm here, because he needed someone to look in your eyes and tell you that our constituents are going to be safe. We already have a contract, a $278,000 contract with the Greater Southeast Management District to provide supplemental public safety services specifically to aid your concern, to address your concern. In your packets, there's already a contract in your packets already, and that contract has been in existence for 10, 15 years. It renews annually. The first thing. The second thing I heard is that the design of this facility will be a crime prevention through environmental design. That is best practices. It reduces what we call the routine activities theory, victim, opportunity, perpetrator. It addresses each one of those issues. And I've made notes. He said from technological to IT to cameras, license plate readers, everybody's familiar with Flock. My agency has access to Flock. So every time someone drives a certain area, we can ping a license plate. So that aids in our investigation. And he talked about perimeter fencing, controlled access. Those things add to the safety of your constituents that you're concerned about. And so I applaud your concern, but I am here to tell you to alleviate your concern, that my job and all of my skills, knowledge, experience, training, education would be geared to make sure that your constituents, our constituents, are safe. So I hope that when you do make your decision, that you remember that I, Holland Jones, Dr. Kaplan, looked you in your eyes and said, yes, man, we can get this done, but we have to start somewhere. And I believe that we have clearly effective and efficient mitigation strategies in place to remediate the crime activity in that area.
Okay, thank you, Captain. Since we have some more speakers, I want to try to keep this going, unless Holland has a question for Holland. Okay, you're the only two Hollands I know. Okay. All right, okay. Thank you. Let's try to get figure out. Okay, so the metro station is conveniently placed so any perpetrators can get away real fast.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Keith Tillman, and I'm not a doctor or a lawyer or anything like that. I'm just a field cop. My esteemed colleague over here, Captain Jones. God bless you. I'm here to discuss how our department's going to augment safety concerning the Benicia Place development adjacent to our Southeast Transit Center. It's been discussed that Metro PD has a footprint there. That's a Metro Transit Center that the buses, our local route buses will come through there, drop people off as a transition point. We do not have a police department there, just to make that clear. We don't have a police department at that location. So what do we bring to the table? We are going to be the third agency of jurisdiction there. Behind HPD and Precinct 7, we also have jurisdiction in that area. First and foremost, community policing. We believe our department's a model of community policing. Community policing builds trust, deters crime, and ensures a visible, approachable police presence, which we have at that transit center 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Our officers constantly engage with the people that use our transit system, as many of our riders are daily users, and we expect fully that the residents at Benicia Place will also be constant daily riders. Officers are assigned to patrol our buses, light rail vehicles, and facilities, consistently make contact with operators and patrons alike to facilitate proactive policing. Second, surveillance and technology. My colleague talked also about license plate reader and flock. We also have access to that. We have a robust surveillance camera system that is at the transit center. We also have surveillance cameras on our buses, some of which we can log into and view remotely, real time. We also have a text line tied to our main police dispatch phone number. It allows citizens to text with an officer directly to report incidents. Third, our response times. Our department is growing. We're approaching 400 officers now, and we hope to surpass that in the next few years. We get some more money, that'd be great. We're expanding our footprint throughout our 1,300 square mile service area, and that's roughly the size of Rhode Island. That's what we have to deal with. We deal with Harris County, portions of Fort Bend, Montgomery, and Waller counties. Only DPS is a larger jurisdiction in Texas. So we have a lot to do, but we can focus on certain areas like this development here. We're decentralizing our operations. We're adding mobile command centers. They can serve as mobile police stations. Say we notice there's an uptick in crime at that location. We have a cadre of officers assigned to that mobile command center. They will go out, flood that area, and take care of business. Also, collaboration with other agencies. We work closely with HPD, who is the agency of jurisdiction there. Also the Harris County Constable's Office Precinct 7. While HPD would be the primary agency for any incidents that would occur unless the contract goes to the Constable's Office, we would be there obviously to be able to assist them with anything they need from our department to address safety concerns related to this development. I have done.
Okay, no, great. Thank you. Appreciate you being here. And I think there's going to be some questions at the end.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, yes.
Could I just make a general question for either of you two? How many people will end up being in this development when it's finished?
Being that it's elderly.
Mm-hmm.
If you could step up to the mic, just because
will it be like one per unit, or do you have some formula?
Typically for elderly, that's what you find. It's on rare occasion, there's a second occupant, but primarily in affordable housing, elderly developments, it's primarily single.
What about the number of parking places? I know that's in here, but you got a lot of information here.
Yeah, we've got, I believe we've got at least 120 plus visitors.
But when you figure trips per day for elderly, you don't figure a very high trips per day, do you?
I know what you're talking about, sort of like the ITE traffic studies. We usually don't have to go that deep. We're so accustomed to developing local engineers and architects. We're pretty familiar with how much parking is needed for an elderly development. And one-to-one is typically enough from day one. And then the amount of drivers.
Yeah, I'm specifically talking about the opportunity for crime. A lot of times when you're coming and going, you have more opportunity for crime. So if you're not going to be coming and going,
Right,
and be more.
And elderly drive less. They're on the roads less. They're less impactful. They're less alien trips.
So you only have one parking place per unit.
Correct.
Yeah, our office next to a really nice unit, and I mean they really don't drive much. I mean, pretty well stay in. So thank you.
Okay, and while I have the mic, I did want to address some things. So you questioned how would we know that the things that we commit to would continue into the future. What we're proposing, like any service or any physical improvement that's committed for a tax credit application, is that we make it a part of the law. So the Housing Authority is proposing to make private security patrol, in addition to the patrols by law enforcement, a condition of the site throughout the compliance period, as well as the long list of security measures that I listed. The proposal is to make that a part of the law, so that it is a commitment throughout the compliance period. As we
Okay, great, thank you.
Good morning, board members. My name is Antoinette Jackson, known by most as Tony. I'm with the famous law firm, and I am development counsel for the Harris County Housing Authority. As the chairman said at the beginning of this, I do not want to duplicate comments, but I did want to just make a couple of points. Mr. Harris actually just mentioned that we are going to have these commitments memorialized in the Laura, but also, as Captain Howland indicated, these are not promises we're making for today. We have other agreements memorialized with the Southeast Management District, with the Constable's Office, Metro. So this is something that everyone is committed to. Our partners are committed. As we indicated, this is a partnership with Metro. Metro actually donated the land for this development, and it is right at their transit center. So this is a commitment on their part that they are strongly interested in seeing take place. You also raised the question about the additional funds and what in the development having the funds to be able to do this. What was not said is that the Harris County Housing Authority has committed project-based vouchers for this development. And so that is, one, allowing us to serve a deeper targeted community, but also it allows those additional funds to be able to be poured back into safety and security measures. So that allows us to do that. Lastly, I just wanted to again speak to the fact that this is the adjacent tract that has the higher crime rates. The officers have all spoken to the fact that this will be new development, and so with development coming up, we also know that with that police presence, it will change what is going on that adjacent area. Right now it's vacant other than just the Metro transit station. But once there's development there, we have this continued police presence and all of the other measures. It will also very positively impact that adjacent area across the street. So we just wanted to again remind you of those issues as well. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Jackson, how many vouchers are committed to this project?
120.
Oh, those full, I mean, you could go up to 120
Yes.
full project-based vouchers. Okay,
Yes.
all right, great, thank you. Is there anyone else who wants to add before I open more questions here to the board? Okay, well, do board members have further questions or want some clarification? Mr. Marshall.
Yeah, can we make sure that we memorialize all of these promises into the final acceptance of the project if we were to grant the waiver? So that all of these promises are still in place before we grant the final completion inspection? Or is that something you guys don't do?
I would probably defer to council, but I would imagine that if the board wanted to make that as part of their motion, in not granting the waiver, just to be clear, this is not a waiver that the board is granting, but it is deeming the application eligible.
Okay.
As it stands right now, it is an ineligible application. But if the board were to find the application eligible, then it presumably could that a condition of the LURA be to provide private security. I guess, should the board choose to go that direction, the point of clarification might be whether that is intended to be throughout the entire affordability period of the LURA, which is not just the initial 15-year compliance period, but it's the extended use period, which is a full 30-year term. So to avoid confusion when we're drafting this, it might be good to clarify.
Well, I just know it may take two to 3 years to get this in place, people on the ground. And you guys will have the ultimate authority to say this project's complete, you can now get your money. It seems to me that would be the time we would make sure these promises were kept.
When the LURA is being drafted, yes, you would take note to it.
And Mr. Chairman, I wouldn't be smart enough to know how to draft that motion.
Okay, all right.
I'd like some help on that.
Ms. Jackson.
Commissioner, and also, as we indicated, we already have an interlocal agreement with the Greater Southeast Management District, and that will be going through our 15-year compliance.
Yes, ma'am, and nobody doubts that, but these projects take a couple of years and things change.
Okay, I have a general question. Recently, I attended a grand opening ceremony at a beautiful development in this same area, OST Lofts. How far is this development from that? Does anyone know? Does anyone know? Generally, approximately, I don't know exactly.
I think it's a mile and a half.
Mile and a half-ish, okay, 2 miles. Okay, I was curious because I know these are general, well, they're in the same district, city council district for sure. And when reading this board item initially, I was highly skeptical. However, I think when speaking with Mr. Wilkinson, I was suggesting have them pull it from the agenda until they can pull together what you all pulled together here. So it's like compliment you on getting everyone here. The skeptical, jaded part of me, one of the comments that was made about the constable contract is like a 10-year contract and it's renewable and it's going to keep being renewed. Well, if it's already in place, why is crime still so high? So there's got to be a permanent surge in additional focus in this area, well, specifically for Bernicia, but the whole region, the adjoining, where the real problem is. So I think I've heard that there is a surge, a resetting of that bar. If there's, and as Mr. Marchant was saying, if we can document that into the LURA, or I could see making it eligible, but I guess I want input from council. Can we effectively do that?
I think that just from a procedural standpoint, it's a little bit difficult to make a conditional finding of eligibility here based on statements that are made during the meeting. If this is the direction that the board wants to go in, I would suggest that it be tabled and brought back after these matters have been formally submitted as to what their plan is and what the representations are that would go into a LURA, for how long it would be in the LURA. Would it just be the initial compliance period or the full length of it? And then the board would have in front of it exactly what is being presented in order to satisfy the standard as it is, because as Teresa mentioned, this is not a waiver action. This is a proposal to say that the crime rate in this adjacent census tract will be lowered by the time this development places in service. I'm not sure that that's what's been presented here, but that's what's before the board here to determine.
So my question, who's the champion of this project? I know we have law enforcement here, but who is in charge of this project to make sure it gets across the finish line? Is that you, Mrs. King?
Yes.
All right, would you come back to the podium for a second, please? Historically, in the last 3 years, you do not have the crime stats to justify this packet coming across to us. Is that a fair statement? I mean, you're supposed to be at 16, we're almost at 38, 32 here. We're almost double the amount of crime we have in this area.
The adjacent area.
In the adjacent area. In the 25, our murders are up versus going down. We have some improvement there, but for the most part, not. How long will it take to get significant changes in percentages to come back to this board? Significant crime stat changes. A year?
I think that's hard for us to answer.
And that, so right there, sir, hold on a second. But you're asking us to take a leap of faith to do the same thing.
Let me finish. But in the couple of years that the housing authority has been working on this development, the crime stat that is the threshold item for this census tract, it has trended down. And what we do know is that during that time period, there has been an increase in law enforcement, and there has been this program that's been put in place by the Southeast Management District to provide additional officers to this area. Our conclusion would be that those efforts are being realized by the drop in the crime stats for this census tract, and we would suggest that that would continue because those efforts are going to continue. But to backstop that, we also have a plan with funding that is focused on the property itself, whereas there will be security measures and enough funding to support 24-hour patrols at the $78,000 a year is enough for 24-hour patrols.
I question that. I mean, I question that. Get that to come.
So I think that the data I have in front of me states that in 23, or it's correct, in 22, crime rate for the tract was 30.95. For 23, it was 31.90, and for 24, it was 38.10 on a threshold of 16.
That's the adjacent tract.
Ms. Morales, am I correct in this? This is 18.
Oh, it's the adjacent tract that's the problem.
Which is in the 500 mile
That's
radius,
the
in the 500
30
foot
plus.
radius.
So the subject census tract is below the threshold. And
Okay.
so that's not the one that is creating the issue. What the rule says is that if it's either the census tract or an adjacent tract with boundaries within 500 feet, then that tract gets triggered as having a neighborhood risk factor. One of the things, again, that the rule clarifies is when we're looking at this adjacent tract, if there are natural, I think the wording is natural boundaries or something to where you could conceivably say that adjacent tract, yeah, it's adjacent, but it's not really part of the neighborhood. There's a highway, there's a river, lake, whatever. And
Be
so
bayou.
A bayou.
Yeah.
That's a consideration that we look at when determining whether that adjacent tract that is over 18 isn't part of the neighborhood. So there's been a lot of discussion here about, well, the subject tract is fine. It's at 16, and that's accurate. But with this adjacent tract, it's literally across this, like it's not, it's part of the neighborhood. So when a resident, from a staff standpoint, we have a property, and certainly we want to do everything we can to make sure that those residents in that property and immediately in the vicinity that they're safe, but what happens when they step outside? And in this case, that adjacent tract is right there. So it is part of this neighborhood. And that's the one, to your point, the chart. When we are looking at the actual police speed data for that tract, it is trending upward. And therefore part of this neighborhood.
Ms. King, did you want to come back to the podium?
I think one additional point that I have to make is that this development was a part of the OST Palm Center Livable Center study carried out by the Houston-Galveston Area Council. Bernicia Place, and these types of studies that are done are heavily vetted with the community. In this particular study, they highlighted safety and transit. Bernicia Place was the only development included in the actual study outside of actual sites that can be developed. This is the only actual development named in the study for development vetted by the community. They believe that this development will assist in deterring crime in the area by, as Ms. Jackson stated, bringing more visibility to the area, having more people there, and having housing authority there. We are not like any typical housing authority. We pride ourselves on safety. We have other developments that require 24-hour safety, 24-hour patrol that we adhere to day in and day out. It's permanent supportive housing, and we do a good job at that. We are dedicated to our tenants, to our residents. We have an active role in their lives every day, and we are committed to their safety. So this is just not us coming to put a deal on the ground. This is an effort from various people in the community that want to see this deal come into fruition because they do believe that this could change that area as a whole.
Okay, thank you, Ms. King. I'm just going to put this out for the board. Y'all can push back or say no. I would suggest, I am reasonably confident y'all will surge and just raise the whole level of security and patrols and everything in this area. And we have some time to do it because it's going to take, we're talking, the doors don't open until 3 years from now at best. Your suggestion about tabling this and working with the attorneys on both sides to figure out how we can put this into more of a contractual obligation commitment in writing to make us feel comfortable that this is happening. If we have that in writing, that commitment to do everything you all have been talking about, which I think is great, I'd be willing to deem it eligible if we have that kind of locked in, rather than just, it's great that you're making the promises, verbally, but that's only goes so far. So do you think that staff can pull a document together that would meet that need, meet that commitment to make it ironclad? Or Mr. Martian, you want to comment?
This is just to allow them to make an application, correct?
It's a 4% application.
This is not it's a 4%.
This is a 4%.
So they will
it's not
get, okay, I understand.
And I believe the full application was just recently submitted.
Okay.
So before staff goes through and starts reviewing it, we wanted to get a determination on eligibility.
Mr. Chairman, I would agree with that. My only reservation is that I'm sure that you can take these 120 people and make them safe inside of their environment. And you can put police around it and it'll be a safe place. When they get outside of that environment and they go to the store or whatever, that is what triggers this adjacent tracker across the street. And that will be dependent on the job these guys do on that adjacent track. Is that right? I mean, the way I'm looking at it, or?
That's correct.
Okay, thanks.
So the question about the contractual obligation, again, defer to council, but I don't know if that would be in the form of an exhibit or something that is attached, a plan that gets attached to the LURA.
Well, generally speaking, representations made in an application can be memorialized in the LURA. This matter presents sort of twin problems. There are these representations that are being made of, we are going to provide $78,000 a year towards on-site security. Whether $78,000 will suffice to actually provide that patrol in year 1 or year 10, that's something that would need to be discussed, but that's more of a matter of, is this a decent plan to satisfy this idea of having a secure site? The problem that you have brought is just straight under the rule, and that is their burden as a prospective applicant trying to secure eligibility under this rule is to show that there is mitigation and trends to support a conclusion for this board that by the time this development places in service, that the adjacent census tract will have a low enough crime level that it would be safe in the community. What has been presented is that they would make a secure site. I'm not sure if that satisfies the rule, so I'm not sure that that will satisfy the board, but that's the second of these two issues. If there is an affirmative representation in the application of here is what we are going to provide and expect it to be in the LURA, that can carry forward when we're actually drafting the LURA. But it's really difficult to say just representations made by various parties during a meeting that's going to then somehow rocket forward to a year and a half from now when the LURA is being drafted, and it's somehow going to make it in there because it's not their representation in their application. So a lot of talking, not sure if I've actually answered the question.
Again, I think if we can, and this doesn't have to be the final language in the LURA that I'm talking about, but a written commitment exhibit that all these points that we've been talking about, all these mitigation factors and increased security factors will be in the ultimate LURA, so it's a contractual commitment from the development.
So we can do the cameras, controlled access, and the whatever amount for private patrol and the LURA, but their agreement with Constable, I think that's well outside of, it's just only about the property for us, I think.
A lot of the amenities that they mentioned, so the controlled gate access, the video surveillance, a lot of those are what we consider common amenities. And so with every project, depending on the size, they have to meet threshold, a minimum point threshold of amenities to be provided. And so what we normally do is just take that whole menu of amenities and put them in the LURA. And then when compliance goes out, they check to see which ones they have and that they're meeting our minimum threshold. So the controlled gate access and some of those things would be in there normally. It's just a matter of whether or not they're providing those or other amenities in order to meet that threshold.
Okay, do any board members have problems with us sending this back to staff to better document the commitments that will ultimately?
I think you can just give us direction to put this stuff in the LURA.
Okay, well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And if that
which
happens,
will happen at a later date.
If that happens at a later date, then once you have that established, bring it back to the board, and we would be, I imagine after that, we'd be more willing to commit to deeming the site eligible.
If that would happen at a much later date that we're saying is years from now, that would be problematic, because with this being a 4% deal, it would be considered a straight line, which means we would underwrite and do all of the required reviews and then issue the determination notice or the commitment administratively. They would close, build the project, and then come back at cost certain or to have the bid drafted. So I would imagine that if the board should find the site, would need to find the site eligible today or next month, whatever, before we issue that determination notice saying you're eligible, here are the credits that you're eligible for.
Yes, I think I'm
You
saying
know
the same
what that
thing.
is before we, that way when it comes time to draft the LURA, we've got it, we're not communicating about or finalizing details.
Yes, no, I agree. I mean, my intent was saying we have that written commitment outlined and detailed before you issue a determination notice. I mean, that would have, to me, that would have to be finalized in place before you issue it. Say, hey, this is, keep going.
I just wanted to make one last clarification based on a comment that Teresa made. In terms of the adjacent area, this area that is adjacent, it is across a 4-lane median street. So it is, in our mind, one of those areas that does make it a different neighborhood. I know, yeah, say maybe not, but the area is different. That is a different community, essentially. It is very enough, but I did want to make that point too, in terms of just repair.
Okay, all right, we
Instead of just
appreciate that. Okay, we understand. So again, I'm looking for final feedback from any board members.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we have another project in Houston that's become kind of famous that we don't want another famous project on our hands. So anything we can do in a tabling process to shore this up. I would love to have a letter from the city council member in that district. I would love to see that the mayor knows that this is a project and hear their perspective on the idea of redeveloping this area.
I'm confident that actually it's part of
Yeah,
this
I'm sure
bigger
that,
picture
I'm sure that
process.
too.
So, my one comment that I think would help is that, the mayor is aware of this project. We were awarded $4 million in home funds. We went through a competitive process for this development. As well, as stated earlier, also the Texas General Land Office, we were awarded $10 million in their disaster recovery reapplication program. It is the largest single contribution to a multifamily project that the GMO made. So everyone is aware of this project. They understand, they know the law, the circumstances surrounding it, and we were still reporting it.
Okay, all right, let's, I think we know where we are now. So let me propose, if there's no objection from a board member, that we direct staff to work with the applicant to sufficiently document this prior to issuing a determination notice, that having a commitment to all of these different measures that we've had, and if they can add some more, that's even better. Then you can bring that back to us next month. So we can, with that in place, I would feel comfortable deeming the property eligible. Is that good? Can we?
A motion to table and you give it direction.
Any objections? So do we need to actually have someone make a motion to do that?
Can you just make a
Or just,
simple motion?
I just say table, or do I have to vote? I mean, do we have to?
Mr. Chairman, I can attempt to do that for the record if you'd like.
All right, let's go ahead.
Just a simple motion to table.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board table agenda item 18 and direct staff to return to looking at the circumstances behind this application and come up with additional protections and conditions as all described and conditioned here at the board meeting for further consideration at a later date.
Second.
Okay, all right. Second by Mr. Martian. Okay, motion made by Mr. Thomas, second by Mr. Martian. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Oh, okay, well, okay, so we have Mr. Harper and Ms. Farias voting no. We had all yeses?
Yes.
On this, okay, so 4-2, motion to table passes. Let's get all that documented and firmed up and come back soon. And we really appreciate you all, taking time to be here and the work that you do as a Houstonian on the board.
I am actually really appreciative of what you're trying to do. And I know that a lot of times that when you build some things, it does change the environment. So I really hope that you all can come back with a little bit more solid on this.
Actually, when I talked to Ms. Dawn, the 10 million was great, but she had to give that money.
Okay, that was item 18 of the agenda. Let's go to item 19, presentation, discussion, and possible action regarding a material amendment to the housing tax credit application and request for return and reallocation of tax credits under 10 tax section 11.65 related to credit returns resulting from force majeure events for the Athens Trails development. Mr. Manuels.
Management. So this is an amendment that we're combining with force majeure requests, so a little bit more than typical. Athens Trails was approved for a 9% housing tax credit award in 2024 for the construction of 57 units, all of which were designated as low-income units for the LROP in Athens and Richland County. The applicant has now requested approval for a material amendment that includes a 10.53% reduction in the number of units going from 57 to 51 units. This will decrease the one-bedroom units by 6, going from 30 to 24, and maintaining the number of two-bedroom units at 27. The change would result in a revision to the rent and income restrictions from 5 units at 30% of area median income or AMI, 12 units at 50% AMI, 40 units at 60% AMI, to 3 units at 30%, 8 units at 50%, and 40 units at 60%. This change will also result in a reduction of 3,894 square feet, or 9.14%, in the net rentable area, going from 42,582 square feet to 38,688 square feet. There will be a 10.53% reduction to the residential density, going from 23.04 units per acre to 20.61 units per acre. There will also be a reduction of 560 square feet, or 5.54%, to the common area, going from 10,100 square feet to 9,540 square feet. Additionally, the number of parking spaces will decrease from 113 to 96. The applicant indicated that this request is a result of an increase in cost after the application was submitted. A decrease in the price of the tax credits from 84 cents per credit to 73 cents per credit, and an increase to the permanent home interest rate from 6.75% to 7.50%. The applicant stated that it was not possible to retain feasibility without reducing the number of units. Staff reviewed the scoring documentation against this amendment request and concluded that the reduction to the number of units would have resulted in the loss of points, but this would not have affected the selection of the development for award in the competitive round. The development was also re-underwritten with the proposed amendment and the revised financial information, and the analysis supports no change to the housing tax credit amount and demonstrates that the development remains feasible. Due to the delays associated with the redesign of the development, the applicant requests a 6-month extension to the placement in service deadline, going from December 31, 2026 to June 30, 2027. This would be done through a return and reallocation of tax credits for the development under the force majeure provision of the qualified application plan. Staff recommends approval of the requested material amendment to the application, and also recommends approval of the request to return and reallocate tax credits under the force majeure provisions of the QAP, which will result in a 6-month extension to the placement in service deadline and a new 10% test deadline on July 1, 2026. That concludes my comments, and I am available for questions regarding the amendment. Cody's available for questions regarding the force majeure extension.
Okay, so to summarize, this is another very recent, it's a 2024 award, and which we reviewed, put through all the process, awarded it, and now they are coming back to us saying, oh, we can't do what we committed to.
Correct, so it's fewer units.
And they're reducing the number of units that we were committed, especially affordable units, am I right? I just, again, as we've been expressing in the last couple meetings, this is, well, even I've been expressing it longer than that, but I just am tired of applicants coming to us and having committed to here's the structure, here's what we're going to do, and then I understand the equity pricing, but I've also heard there are other developments that are obtaining much higher equity pricing. So maybe it's their marketing effort or what network they're going to see who we buy them. And I find it hard to comprehend how since 24 we're saying interest rates went up a full point. I'm just, maybe the original, there should have been a letter of intent or something from the finance structure.
We obtained term sheets at the time of application, and the term sheets were corrected, and that's what we told the pricing that they're able to get annually, and put that developer. Can I speak a little bit more to your questions?
Yeah, okay, and I guess I should have just waited till they got up and so do any board members have questions for Mr. Benuelos before we hear from the development representatives?
I just have one question. You're reducing 6 units, but you're losing 17 parking places. And it's still, losing 17 still makes it pass under the criteria?
Correct. We fall back on the local code for parking, and what we were told is that the 96, which is 17 fewer than initially proposed, still meets the local code requirement.
Okay. So had that been submitted in the original application, that it would have been approved?
I believe that the number that they proposed previously was in line with what they were required to do. I have to go back and look in the written report to see if they provided more. What they were proposing was at least the minimum.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, let's hear from the development representatives.
Thank you, Michael Fogel with Trinity Housing. I do believe I can answer all of these questions. But this deal and the next one we'll talk about, these are 2 2024 rural deals that are struggling to the point of being completely infeasible due to current equity pricing. There's some other issues, but it's really boiling down to the equity pricing. I did mention these to y'all at the Rules Committee meeting a few months ago, and I'm just kind of reiterating that so you don't think I'm back up here with more problems. This is basically what I mentioned a few months ago, and I said I'd come back with a solution and a request. So here we are. Athens Trails was underwritten at 84 cents at the time of application in February 2024. I feel like that was very sound, reasonable, and conservative. Urban deals at that time were at 88 cents. Rural deals seem to be discounted to 84 cents. Now we're at a situation that, at least certainly this part is completely out of our control, where the best equity pricing we can get is 73 cents. We shop this to more, but we shopped it intimately to 6 investors that we have relationships with and have done deals with. All but one of them declined to make an offer. One offered 73 cents. I have heard from some developers, and keep in mind this is rural. The discount being applied to rural has always been lower than urban, higher discount, lower pricing. but it seems to have just really kind of bottomed out and been slaughtered right now. I have heard of people taking 71 cents recently. But so what that results in is a $1.4 million decrease in the equity capital contribution, which it just means the deal doesn't work. There's no soft funds available. We have worked closely with the city and the EDC on this property. We actually purchased it from them at a very favorable price, below market rate, certainly on the land purchase. And we both mutually feel the city has done their part in they're participating as well. So we've got to cut costs in order to make this deal work or any other comparable deal work. So what we've done to do that is propose the 6-unit reduction to save on building costs, reducing the developer fee dramatically, and then actually deferring all the developer fee, or all but $200,000 of the developer fee, which will go straight to a consultant. So, not to mention other soft costs that we're not even trying to recoup. And on top of that, we're actually going to be required to put up a GP contribution or a promissory note to close with the investors. So what I'm here asking for today is, it is an ask from the department for 6 fewer units. I do feel like we are taking on as much pain and financial kind of burden as we're able to do in addition to that. Kind of just a few housekeeping items. I know I'm out of time. This is certainly in line with, I think the other deals the board has approved on the kind of unofficial 10% rule. We're right at 10.5%. It's a 3-story building. We need to cut 3 minutes at a time and we've been moving. We have permits in hand. We've resubmitted with the 6 units, so we'll be ready to go very shortly to start construction. And then the other thing is, yes, there are some increases in construction costs, and the permanent financing rate is up 3/4 of a point. But I'm not here asking for a change because of that. That stuff, it increased costs, we'll eat that cost. But with the equity pricing, the equity contribution is the bedrock of the program and of the budget. So we can't get around it. We can get around the other stuff, which costs of doing business, and that's what we signed up for. But this is so drastic, we've got to ask for something, and we're asking for the smallest amount.
Mr. Chairman.
Please, Marcia.
From an underwriting standpoint, staff, what do you use as, he's saying 73 cents, some people are saying 71. What do you allow them to plug in as that discount rate? And how can we avoid this by not allowing an unrealistic discount rate to be plugged in so that a unit, so that it passes, so that we get back in this place?
So we rely on term sheets. Each applicant is required to obtain this information from their financing partners. We have an idea of what the pricing is generally. I don't know if we have questioned any deal recently where the pricing seems so low. I will tell you that, and hearing at different meetings, mid-70s is not unreasonable these days. We have been hearing that that's what rural developments.
Let's say they come in and say they're going to get 82, and the project works at 82, but then in fact the reality is they're going to come back later and say, well, we can only get 73. How do we keep that from happening? Yeah, I think that may be a rhetorical question, but that's the world we're living in now, right? So we shouldn't be approving deals based on an unrealistic discount rate.
I don't think it was unrealistic at the time of application.
And how firm of a commitment are these term sheets? It's
pretty far.
Good morning, Gina Adams, Director of Real Estate Analysis. Really is correct. We get term sheets when our deals turn in from debt and from equity. Whenever, especially for like 9%, they all come in at the same time, same date, you kind of all expect them to be within a range. Every deal is different. Some people do the same deals with the same people. They get better credit pricing than others. The deal's bigger, stronger overall, usually gets less credit pricing than others. But when we get all that stuff in, we do look at it. We're underwriting a bunch of deals at once.
Right.
The market changes. And, when stuff gets turned in February and, and it's a year later, credit pricing dropped a lot last year. There's some deals that are only getting like high 60s. As a director of underwriting, I don't like putting out numbers that are probably not going to be the same in the next year. But that is the market that we live in right now.
So you go off the term sheet that they give you?
Yes, sir.
And you don't, I'm not trying to criticize, but I mean, do you ever look at it and say, that's an unrealistic number, that's not going to happen, I need to?
If we saw an application with a normally high, an outlier of a credit pricing, we would ask them, hey, is this real credit pricing? And we could ask them to get a new term sheet, but not really, it's not for 9% because they can't get updated term sheets. I expect there's going to be a lot of deals that are going to be coming in with the same problem because equity was down. I don't expect this will be the only one. And I don't know how we would upfront gauge against that unless just underwriting buffer. Underwrite a buffer, you're not going to get very many deals for it.
Okay, thanks.
And this is a bigger shift in tax credit pricing than usual. I mean,
it is, yeah. It went down quite a lot in the last year and a half. Like we were seeing like 87, 84s, now we're down to 78, 76s. And it's going to hurt a lot of deals.
Are the term sheets coming in at 76 and 78 though? Are they?
They are currently.
Oh, they are, okay.
Yeah.
So we'll see if they're pricing more reasonably going in, we'll see less of these force majeures where it drops so much that they had to go and
if credit pricing doesn't drop again significantly.
Yeah.
This was a significant drop. We don't normally see, you would see a few cents up or down, but it was a significant drop. I don't think that this is a abnormal credit price currently happening right now.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we really weren't accepting unreasonably high assumptions.
I don't think so. We use, like, the credit pricing is what's being offered at the time. Deals are tight right now. Expenses are extremely tight.
Gotcha.
Deals are really tight right now.
I think it's the new reality.
Thanks, Gina. Cody, I see you jumping out of your chair. Do you want to say something?
Realistically, answer that question. I didn't know who was going to. Cody Campbell, Director of Multifamily Programs. Mr. Marshall, the only thing I would add to that is that we get phone calls when applications come in. And occasionally one of the phone calls I'll get is, you've got this application from so-and-so. Really, I don't think they're going to be able to get the equity pricing that they represented on their application. And the tough thing for staff is discerning kind of the truth from the fiction there, because every now and then when you have an application that does realize very strong equity pricing. I think we heard from an application in Austin recently that was in the high 80s, and they had actually gotten that credit pricing. So certainly if there's some kind of policy or procedure that we can come up with that would allow us to discern what is a realistic credit pricing for the unrealistic one, we would be very happy to enact that. It's just tough because sometimes that pricing does shake out, and it's hard to tell on the front end.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Do any other board members have more questions on this?
Just for discussion, rural gets less credits because it's more risk. There's less human beings there. What has caused the giant drop in credits this year? Is something else taking the credit market?
I think some of it was uncertainty about corporate profits that could be in the long term, so that's an obvious drop. We did hear a lot about the bonus of solar tax credits, so same although a lot of global hires. I think those two things would.
We also now have an expansion of light tech as part of the big beautiful bill.
Yeah.
So
supply has increased.
Yeah. So yeah.
But nevertheless, the rural has they both declined, but the decline has been more significant on a dollar basis and on a percentage basis for.
And then for CRA credit, rural doesn't really help banks,
Doesn't
right?
help at all.
Yeah. So urban areas get a little CRA boost as well.
Thank you.
Staff's recommendation is to grant the force majeure and reschedule. So
and approve the material amendment.
Material amendment on the reduction of 10.53%, so 10%. And then extend for 6 months? Okay, I guess let me ask one more question. So how ready to proceed are we? I mean, so if we approve this here, when do we start? When do we sign docs? When do we?
I think for Athens, worth November.
Okay, so
October.
Next month.
Yeah, we're
November.
talking about October. I think,
It's already
you know,
October.
looking at November and the other one's East, so I think that'll be December. It could be before then, but.
Okay, well, okay, so it's not like we still have to wait until.
No, I mean, we had permits.
April to break
We
ground.
had permits for this in the spring. And I think admittedly, should have had it sooner. We're kind of waiting a little bit, because you know, thinking that pricing recover a little bit. But anyway, so we had permits, so it's a very modest revision to get building permits and, you know, investors lined up, so.
Okay, all right, thanks. If there are any other comments, I'll take a motion.
Actually, as a clarification, because in one part of the bar, there is the extension request is 6 months, but in the body of the background, it has a new placed in service deadline of December 31, 2027. That'd be a year. Do you know which? Okay. So it's actually seeking a placed in service date of June 30, 2027? Okay.
26, right? No,
27.
27.
Okay. So that would change that motion.
Looking for a motion?
Yes, but you understand that date edit?
Yeah, I do.
Okay,
Change
all
the
right,
date.
great.
I move the board approve the requested material amendments for Athens Trail and approve the requested treatment under an application of the force majeure rule with a new place in service deadline of June 30th, 2027. All is described, conditioned, and authorizing the board action request, resolution, and associated documents on this item.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Conroy, seconded by Mr. Harper. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. So, Rosalia 120, presentation, discussion, and possible action regarding material amendment to the housing tax credit application and a request for return and reallocation of tax credits under 10 tax section 11.65 related to credit returns resulting from force majeure events for Gainesville Crossing. I think this is very similar, right?
Very similar. This development was approved for a 9% housing tax credit award in 2024 for the construction of 32 units, of which 28 were designated as dwelling units for the general population in Gainesville. The applicant has now requested approval for a material amendment for a redesign that averaging the results in a reduction to the number of units from 32 to 26 by removing the 4 market units and 2 housing tax credit units, which represents a reduction of 7.14% in the number of dwelling units. The reduction to the number of units will result in a reduction to the units at 60% of the area median income for 28 to 26. The net rental area will decrease 6,720 square feet or 20.98%, growing to 32,028 square feet, 25,308 square feet. The revised unit mix includes 4 one-bedroom units, 18 two-bedroom units, and 4 three-bedroom units. Instead of the original proposed 4 one-bedrooms, 22 bedrooms, and 8 three-bedroom units. The development was originally proposed with 2 residential buildings that are proposed in this amendment. All units will now be in one building. The reduction to the units will result in an 18.75% decrease in the residential density from 5.3 units per acre to 4.41 units per acre. Additionally, the common area will decrease 228 square feet to 4.38%, going from 5,206 square feet to 4,978 square feet. The number of parking spaces will decrease from 50 to 55. The applicant states that this redesign is needed to ensure financial feasibility of the development, as there has been an increase in cost, an increase in the interest rate for the permanent loan, again from 6.75% to 7.5%, and a decrease in credit price from 84 cents to 73 cents. Staff reviewed the supporting documentation against this amendment request and concluded that none of the changes would have affected the selection of the application in the competitive round. The development was also underwritten with the proposed amendment, and the analysis supports no change to the housing tax credit amount and demonstrates the development remains feasible. However, due to the delays associated with the redesign of the development, the applicant requests a 6-month extension to the placement and service deadline from December 31, 2026 to June 30, 2027, through a return and reallocation of tax credits under the force majeure provision of the qualified allocation fund. Staff recommends approval of the requested material amendment to the application and also recommends approval of the request to return and reallocate tax credits under the force majeure provisions of the 3AP, which will result in a 6-month extension to the placement and service deadline and a new 10% test deadline for July 1, 2026. That concludes my presentation and I'll go for questions.
So this one, due to this overall size to begin with, only 32 units, the change is substantially over that threshold that we've been working with of 10%.
It's actually over in the total number of units, but for the long-term units, it's under. So they're increasing the market rate units that they have, they're getting away with those, and only reducing the number of long-term units.
So, yeah, recent board history, precedent doesn't exist, all that. But we were voting, or y'all were voting to allow market rate units to go away because we're not paying for them anyway. Yeah. We only pay for the affordable. And then the affordable was bright line. No reduction affordable. And then as conditions worsened, we got to this unofficial 10%-ish, and this one's 7.14% affordable units being reduced.
There's only 2 of the affordable units are gone.
Is that right? Yep. Okay.
That puts it under the 10% of, if we're just using that as a general. And same situation with the tax pricing, the credit pricing and everything like that. Yep. Do any board members have questions on this item?
This rural project is a rural project. Yeah. Mr. Chairman, I'm ready to make a motion.
Mr. Martian, recognized.
I move the board approve the requested material amendments for Gatesville Crossing and approve the requested treatment under an application of force majeure rule with a new placed in service deadline of June 30, 27. All as described condition and authorizing the board action request resolution and associated documents on this item.
I'll second.
Motion made by Mr. Martian, seconded by Ms. Conroy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. All right. Thanks here, Rosalio. Item 21, presentation, discussion, and possible action on recommendation to adopt an agreed final order assessing an administrative penalty relating to Jubilee at Texas Parkway. Ms. Stremler, can you give us a concise recap of this?
Good afternoon. Tasha Strumler here today in my capacity as lead enforcement attorney to present item 21 concerning an agreed final order for Jubilee at Texas Parkway. Jubilee at Texas Parkway is owned by Jubilee at Texas Parkway LP, which is controlled by Mark Gardner of Gardner Capital, Asset Limited as the property manager. The development has a 2017 tax credit award for the new construction of 82 units in Missouri City, Fort Bend County. The development is a qualified elderly project with 8 units at 30%, 32 units at 50% of AMI, and 39 units at 60%. The development consists of one 4-story U-shaped building that is serviced by 2 elevators. The tax credit award was effective in 2020 with federal compliance expiring in 2035 and the extended use period terminating in 2055. In June of 2025, the department received multiple complaints that both elevators servicing the development were broken. One elevator had been non-operational since Hurricane Beryl hit the area in July of 2024, and the other stopped working on May 10th, 2025. The broken elevators are an INSPIRE violation as well as an accessibility violation, as the tenants are deprived of an accessible route in and out of the building. On June 10th, 2025, the Compliance Division reached out to the property regarding the non-functional elevators. Asset Living initially told compliance it was unable to perform repairs due to a lack of available funds
and that Asset Living was working with the equity partner to release escrow reserve funds to cover the cost of the repairs. Compliance issued a notice of non-compliance on July 25th, 2025, which set a corrective action deadline of July 2nd. On July 2nd, 2025, compliance was notified that one of the elevators had been fixed and was now operational, but the second elevator was still broken and required a drive replacement, which was set to arrive July 8th, 2025. The non-compliance was referred to enforcement for an administrative penalty. The second elevator was fixed and fully functional on July 24th, 2025. Administrative penalties are authorized by statute at Texas Government Code 2306.041. The process is defined by rule at TINTAC Chapter 2, Subchapter C. To assess a penalty, TDHCA must first offer an informal conference. Jubilee at Texas Parkway was referred to the Enforcement Committee for an administrative penalty. An informal conference was held on August 21st, 2025, and the Enforcement Committee analyzed the statutory factors at 2306.042B to determine the appropriate administrative penalty. Those factors were discussed in bar. The Enforcement Committee recommends an administrative penalty of $1,250 for Jubilee at Texas Parkway, which is the maximum allowable penalty under the rules as they are currently written. We have a proposed change to the penalty structure for elevator noncompliance, which I will discuss in my next item. I'm available for questions.
Okay, do we have any representatives from Jubilee here?
Rick Harrison, I'm nothing to add. Rick Harrison, counsel for Jubilee, and I have nothing else to add. Recommend that we move forward with the bill.
Okay, be sure to sign it. Is it Rick Harrison?
Rick Anderson.
Anderson, sorry. And you're an attorney for you're not the actual developer.
We got notice of this last week of it coming up on the agenda today, so the owners could not make it today, so I'm here.
They agree with the penalty?
They do, yes.
You ready for a motion, Mr. Chairman?
Well,
Wait.
I was really looking forward to
No.
reprimanding the representative of the development. But that's it. But I know
I'll represent to the panel as well that they have beaten crow. We've had multiple meetings, town halls with the residents, so the situation's been addressed directly. The asset manager, which was originally making representations to the TDHCA, has now been removed and has been put forward. There were issues with the property manager. Side issues, there were lawsuits going on with other multiple properties, not including us, where they've not made payments to vendors. So that was an issue that had come to light through this. And there have been prepared measures made by my client. So it's definitely been addressed and taken very seriously.
And one of the parts that just disturbed me in this is that there's actually, from what I understood, there was a reserve for repairs, emergency reserve, but you said they couldn't. There was some delay in it getting released. I mean, it just, to me, it's set up to actually have a reserve for something exactly like this, and then they wouldn't release the funds.
That was the representation from the property management company as to why they couldn't.
And property management, so they're blaming it on the owner. And
I will say, at the informal conference, the owner said that they were not notified by property management the elevator was broken, so I think there were could have been some underlying issues with property management. And at the informal conference, the owner did say they do now have a contract for elevator maintenance ongoing for their properties. And they have also, I think, changed their procedures so that when there are these more urgent issues, they will have a different system for management to notify them so that they get addressed.
Yeah, there's actually from the owner, there's an on-site employee, not on-site, but for multiple properties throughout Texas as well as Houston area, there is a dedicated employee to address immediate needs and emergencies. That's been implemented so that there are regular meetings with the new management company and ownership so that there is twice a month to know what any ongoing issues are so they're immediately addressed. So this has been something, again, not to shift blame, and again, we take responsibility, and that's why we've agreed to the penalty for the situation. But moving forward, there have been prepared measures to make sure that this does not ever happen again.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Mr. Martian, you wanted to make a motion?
I move the board approve the agreed final order relating to Jubilee at Texas Parkway, all is described, conditioned, and authorizing the board action request to order and associated documents on this item.
Motion made by Mr. Martian. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Harper. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. I think that penalty is just horribly low. How can we address that? Let's move on to item 22. Presentation, discussion, and possible action on an order proposing the repeal of TENTAC Chapter 2, Subchapter C, Administrative Penalties, Section 2.302, Administrative Penalty Process, and an order proposing replacement of the same section and directing their publication for public comment in the Texas Register. Ms. Stremler. Why
Ms.
wait?
Stremler here, today in my capacity as lead enforcement attorney to present item 22. Texas Government Code 2306.041 through 0.042 provides authority and limits for administrative penalty assessments for violations of the statute, department rules, or orders. In 2025, the department has received multiple complaints related to broken elevators with extended outages, during which the affected buildings have had no accessible routes, which has resulted in referrals to enforcement and the assessment of administrative penalties. This includes the previous item, and we also had Light at Sterling Woods, which came before the board in March of this year with a similar elevator issue. Under the currently existing penalty schedule, there is no elevator-specific penalty, so the maximum penalty for an inoperable elevator is $1,250, consisting of $250 for a moderate Inspire violation and then $1,000 for an accessibility violation. The current penalty schedule didn't contemplate scenarios the department is currently seeing in which the elevators are out of service for an extended period of time, including in buildings that are only serviced by one elevator. In addition to the proposed changes in this rule, there's a proposed change to the debarment rule, which was on number 9 on the consent agenda, which added that the failure to have an operable elevator in an elevator service building would be discretionary grounds for debarment. So that's the debarment rule that's proposed. The proposed changes to the rule include adding a new penalty that's specific to elevator noncompliance to the penalty schedule for multifamily rental findings of noncompliance under TENTAC section 2.302K. The proposed elevator penalty has 2 subcategories: instances in which an elevator service building has no operable elevator, and instances in which an elevator service building has one inoperable elevator. The proposed penalties are higher for instances in which there is no operable elevator in the building, as this creates a direct accessibility issue. And as proposed, the penalties in this circumstance are $1,000 per inoperable elevator, plus an optional additional $2,500 per week in which the elevator remains inoperable. So if there's only one elevator servicing the building, or all elevators are down servicing the building, it would be a $1,000 penalty and then an additional $2,500 a week that the elevator remains out of service. For instances in which an elevator is inoperable, but there are other working elevators in the building, the penalty would also be $1,000 per inoperable elevator, and then there would be an optional additional $500 per week in which the elevator remains inoperable. The proposed elevator penalty also reflects that the penalty can increase in circumstances in which the responsible party has previously paid a penalty for the same finding. So if they got another administrative penalty for down elevators, that additional penalty increases to $5,000 per week. I believe that I'm available for any questions.
Okay, so let's say there's 2 elevators in the building. They're serving all floors. I mean, so it's, and one of them goes down. Does that immediately trigger the $1,000 penalty? If the other one's still operating, so there is.
Right. So if it's referred for enforcement, then the administrative penalty under the proposed rules would be $1,000 for just that elevator being down, despite the fact that there's another one continuing to run. I mean, granted, the enforcement committee does have discretion about whether they would want to proceed with the administrative penalty or not, but that is the new flat penalty is $1,000 for having an inoperable elevator.
Remind the chairman, how long would it take to get referred to enforcement, though? Right?
Normally there's a 90-day corrective action period, but I believe for these elevator outages, they've been expedited. So, like for instance, for the one we just had, they had 1 week to get it up and running, and so compliance does have discretion.
So they have a chance to fix it before.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not a, whatever, that one elevator, assuming that there's still elevator service in the building, and one goes out, as long as they're showing, hey, we immediately ordered the part or whatever, and I mean, we need to wait for it to come in from Chicago or whatever it is. You all have discretion. The department has discretion to not assess that $1,000 automatically. But alternatively, if they ignored it and the management company didn't talk to the owners and all that stuff, then that would.
So if it's beyond the correct, so enforcement, I mean, compliance will have a corrective action period. If it goes beyond that and it's not fixed, then it gets referred to enforcement. And so at that point, when it's referred to enforcement is when they would be eligible for that $1,000 administrative penalty. But they do have, like, and compliance does work with them to try to get it fixed before it has to be referred to enforcement.
So, and if you see a genuine effort documented genuine effort to get it fixed.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, compliance definitely has discretion to determine if they think it's being fixed. Then we're only the penalties only come into play once it's been sent to enforcement, and by the time it's been sent to enforcement, compliance has determined like some additional action needs to be taken.
Okay.
To deal with that.
Okay, no, that's good. As long as we have, again, there's sometimes you gotta wait for the part. So, but I do believe that just like on that last one, I mean, $12.50 was just a slap on the wrist.
Right, the inconvenience at $12.50, there was no rush for them to.
No, we need to
do
get
more.
their attention, get people's attention.
Right, so that was our thought in having a weekly penalty that would increase for extended outages. Because most of these ones we've seen are extended outages. It's not just like it's down for a week or two, it's down for months.
Yeah. But even then, if you, like I can think of the building we live in and discussions about these really old elevators that they don't have parts for, if one goes down there. And you can't order the parts. I mean, it's almost impossible to find them. That doesn't necessarily trigger an immediate penalty. I guess in compliance sees a genuine effort to get it fixed.
Right.
Even if
compliance will, and I don't know when you want to speak that, but they'll work with them and make sure. If it seems like they're moving towards it, I don't think they would refer to enforcement. It's only when the owner is not taking the corrective action steps that they send them to us.
Okay, and I'm again, if it gets to enforcement, let's get their attention.
Hi, Isabel Casement. I'm a TDHCA staff member, just here in my capacity as Enforcement Committee Secretary. I just wanted to speak to the process a little bit. So compliance does work with owners. So for example, this elevator non-compliance, they did try to work with them for a little bit before they sent that notice of non-compliance. So there was some attempts to informally resolve first. When that wasn't successful, issued the non-compliance notice. We also have the ability to informally close referrals for administrative penalties if they do submit corrections right away. So let's say they're referred and then they immediately correct it, within a couple of days or a week or so. We would have the discretion to close it informally so long as compliance didn't ask us to move forward based upon the seriousness of the violation or repeated violations, or unless debarment is indicated. So we do have a lot of procedural possibilities worked in there to close informally if necessary.
Okay, but this would help increase the fines if it gets to that point.
Exactly.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, one of the things that I've noticed whenever they get their penalties, which are very low, but at the same time, most of the time, they don't even show up. It's like, who cares? I'll pay the $1,250. But it just, once again, gets to the cynical attitude, we promised you things and then we're not going to do it. So I do want to go on record that a lot of them, they just won't show up because they don't care.
Also to that point, when it's an agreed final order, we don't tell them that they need to attend the board meeting. It's only when it's...
Right, they're not appealing or arguing with
exactly.
it.
If they're not appealing, then they wouldn't need to come to the board meeting. Sometimes they do anyway. Generally, they only come if there's an appeal, or like today, when it was pulled off the consent agenda, we recommended that they attend because we thought you might have questions. So Ordinarily, though, they probably wouldn't attend unless you would like them to do so. I could certainly ask them to do so moving forward.
The meetings are long enough already, don't worry. Okay. Donna, do you want to make a comment?
Good afternoon. I think at this point, Donna Rickenbacker. I have not read what's going to allow us to seek public comment, but as you all are, I think we've got some really bad actors out there, unfortunately, that is now triggering a really harsh, if you will, penalty associated with down elevators. As you all know, and as I believe Harvey, you've already recognized, these elevator companies are extremely difficult to work with. So we have elevator-served developments ourselves, and getting apart, takes 6+ weeks. We do our best to accommodate. We have 2 elevators. Usually one is operational, thank the Lord. But sometimes it takes a while for that one elevator to become operational again. You have very upset residents and things of that nature. I just want to make sure that this board and compliance understands that for the most part, developer owners are doing the best they can with their properties that are elevator served and trying to make sure that they are operational as quickly as possible if they go down. So just please keep that in mind. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, thanks, Donna. And again, that's part of my making sure we have that discretion if there's genuine effort to get it done. Okay, I'll entertain a motion on item 22 of the agenda.
I move the board approve the proposed repeal and proposed new rule regarding TDHCA's administrative penalty process for publication of the Texas Register for public comment, all as described in the board action request and associated documents on this item.
Motion made by Mr. Harper. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Ms. Conroy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 23, presentation, discussion, and possible action on an order proposing repeal of TENTAC Chapter 12 concerning the multifamily housing revenue bond rules, and an order proposing a new TENTAC Chapter 12 concerning the same and regarding their publication for public comment in the Texas Register. Ms. Morales.
Teresa Morales, Director of Multifamily Bonds. The multifamily housing revenue bond rule governs applications where the department is serving as the bond issuer. The rule speaks to the general process of a bond issuance with an emphasis on the pre-application component that requires scoring in addition to threshold and sum eligibility. One noteworthy change is the removal of a scoring item relating to the 50% test. TDHCA has its own multifamily set aside until August 15th of each year in an effort to help spread out that volume cap and reach as many deals as possible. A scoring item was introduced a few years ago that allows applicants to self-limit the amount of bonds to be reserved. Shortly thereafter, there was a change to Chapter 1372, which is the Bond Review Board's governing statute that capped all deals to closing on no more than 55% of, or relative to a project's aggregate basis. So regardless of what our scoring item was, all deals would still be capped at 55%. Moreover, federally, the Big Beautiful Bill reduced the 50% test to 25%, which goes into effect at the end of this year for deals that close thereafter. Given these changes, staff does not believe that this scoring item is necessary at this time. The most substantive change, however, to these rules is the inclusion of qualified 501c3 bonds. Our governing statute already authorizes us to issue 501c3 bonds. The inclusion in the rule is to provide or establish some threshold and eligibility criteria surrounding such an issuance. This wouldn't necessarily be uncharted territory for the department, as we have about a dozen transactions in our portfolio that were financed with 501c3 bonds back in the early 2000s. Qualified 501c3 bonds are tax-exempt bonds, similar to those private activity bonds that we regularly issue that are attached to the 4% housing tax credit. However, pursuant to federal law, C3 bonds are not eligible to receive the 4% housing tax credit. Eligible borrowers are limited to those with a 501c3 designation from the IRS, and the rule provides additional specificity around who would qualify. Essentially, we're looking for those 501c3 nonprofits who have experience with these types of deals, who have been around for a while, and who are well capitalized. While we're opening the door to these types of issuances, we aren't swinging the door wide open necessarily, but we have limited what we are allowing to qualify, at least initially, going forward. Including this in the rule is intended to be essentially another tool in the toolkit, but it is also intended to be a pilot program of sorts as the department potentially re-enters this space. From how deals are structured to how we underwrite them, so much of what we do is grounded in rules governing the housing tax credit program. Not knowing what we don't know when we're trying to craft a rule, it's entirely possible that there are issues encountered that may necessitate board consideration as we work our way through one of these particular issuances. One thing specifically to highlight is that the amount of 501c3 bonds the department issues is not limited to the private activity bond ceiling that is used when we layer them with 4% transactions. However, our governing statute requires the department establish a maximum annual amount through an MOU with the Bond Review Board. Statute further requires that of that amount, no more than 25% would be used in an urban area and at least 15% would be reserved for projects in rural areas. Staff will be bringing that MOU, identifying that maximum annual amount to the board at a later date. Staff recommends the board approve the proposed repeal and proposed new Chapter 12 Multifamily Housing Revenue Bond Rules for publication in the Texas Register for public comment.
Great, thank you, Teresa. So I don't even understand why 501c3s were ever excluded from being eligible for this.
They were never excluded, so the bond rule in its current form would authorize us to issue 501c3 bonds. What was lacking from the rule was specificity around what we would want those to look like. Really diving into the nonprofit itself, and as I indicated, we don't want to open the door wide, not knowing the types of nonprofits, right? But we want to put some parameters or guardrails around who might be coming in so that we can evaluate those a little bit better. Just given the fact that they are different from a traditional bond 4% deal where you have an equity investor and a limited partner.
Yep. Okay, great. So this facilitates that process. Okay, do any board members have questions on this item? If not, I'll entertain a motion on item 23 of the agenda.
Move the board approve for publication the Texas Register for public comment, the proposed repeal and proposed new chapter of the rules regarding TDHC's multi-family housing revenue bonds, all as described in the board action request and associated documents on this item.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Harper, seconded by Ms. Farias. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thanks, Teresa. Okay, presentation discussion, item 24, presentation discussion and possible action on an order proposing a new 10 TAC Chapter 10 Uniform Multifamily Rules Subchapter J Housing Finance Corporation Compliance Monitoring and directing its publication for public comment in the Texas Register. Ms. Quackenbush.
Hello, Chairman, board members, and Mr. Wilkinson. Wendy Quackenbush, Director of Multifamily Compliance. The next item on your agenda is the possible action on proposing a new Chapter 10, Subchapter J, Housing Finance Corporation Compliance Monitoring Rule for publication for public comment in the Texas Register. The public comment period will be from October 24 to November 24. Before I proceed, I want to let everybody know that after the posting of the proposed Housing Finance Corporation Compliance Monitoring Rule, based on stakeholder feedback, we have made a few additions to the rule, and I have those copies when we made them available for everybody over here by the agenda, but I also have copies of the additions to the HFC rule and track changes for the board members. If you would like a copy before I proceed, please let me know, and I'll put those over to you. Okay. The proposed new rule is in response to House Bill 21, which requires the department to enhance its compliance monitoring oversight of the Housing Finance Corporation multifamily residential developments. HFCs are nonprofit entities formed by cities, counties, municipalities under Chapter 394 of Texas Local Government Code, and are eligible for 100% property tax exemptions when working in conjunction with local sponsors. Some of the key provisions of House Bill 21 are HFC-owned developments must submit annual reports to the department by June 1st. There are new standards introduced for tenant protections and marketing requirements, including restrictions on income and rent for a portion of the units. To maintain the tax exemption, the property must demonstrate at least 50% of the value of the tax exemption is applied to rent reduction. If the rent reduction threshold is not met, the owner must pay the shortfall of the applicable taxing to the applicable taxing authorities. The new requirements apply to developments that have received, the new requirements do not apply to developments that have received an allocation of low-income housing tax credits under Chapter 2306 Texas Government Code. The proposed rule provides clear guidance on reporting and auditing requirements for HFC developments, required forms and documentation to accompany annual audits, independent auditor responsibility and required examination items, minimum and maximum thresholds for household file reviews, record retention requirements. The department staff met with stakeholders and interested parties on September 10th to review and receive feedback. Following this meeting and additional comments, the rule as included in the board book has been updated with track changes provided. If you need those, please let me know. The updated changes to the rule include units both restricted and market rate occupied by housing choice vouchers and vacant units would be disregarded in the rent reduction calculation. That was change 1. The second change was for military housing allowance, that basic housing allowance payments for military personnel are excluded from gross annual income calculations for properties in qualified areas. Lastly, the household eligibility documentation adds minimum documentation requirements to verify household eligibility compliance. Staff recommends approval of the proposed new rule for publication in the Texas Register to solicit public comment. I'm happy to read and update the updated changes into the record or answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Wendy. So this is based on us trying to write the rules to comply with HB 21.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Okay, all right. And those changes you outlined, that seems to make sense. I mean, have we been getting good input from the HFC community on?
Absolutely. We worked with stakeholders and interested parties and met with them September 10th, a meeting prior to that. And then, of course, we received some additional feedback after the rule was posted, which prompted us to make those changes.
Okay.
Propose those changes.
And then just to reiterate for the record, when this doesn't apply to HFC properties with tax credits, it's because we're already monitoring those tax credit properties for all kinds of compliance.
That is correct. We monitor all of our properties that are allocated tax credits.
Okay. Do these rules help specify or clarify that when a property is not in compliance or they're not submitting their reports, that we refer that to the local appraisal district?
That is correct, yes, sir.
And then they could, then at that point, they could, the appraisal district, the local county appraisal district could remove the tax.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, great. Do any board members have questions for Ms. Quackenbush? I think we have a couple of public comments. Who'd like to go first? Okay, all right. Again, state your name and make sure you sign in.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, members, thank you so much. I'm not going to extend your day, Mr. Wilkinson. I really just want to stand up here and say thank you. My name is Todd Kirchville, and I represent the Texas Association of Local Housing Finance Agencies. For those of you unfamiliar, we are the association that HFCs are members of. Through this House Bill 21 process, through any process that the legislature engages in, it can be a little up and down for those involved. But the real final thing is how an agency drafts rules. And that's kind of where we were with House Bill 21. And Mr. Chairman, my purpose for speaking today is to say thank you to Ms. Quackenbush, her staff, Mr. Wilkinson. They weren't just accommodating, but bent over backwards to make sure that the industry voice was heard. This is a process we're going to continue to go through over the next couple of sessions, I think, to get the industry right. I think there is room for change. I think there's room for improvement within how the industry works, but none of that would be possible if we didn't have an open and engaged relationship with the agency. And for that, I just wanted to, on behalf of TALPA, say thank you to you, your leadership, as well as to Ms. Quackenbush and her team. Thank you, sir.
Good. Appreciate your comments. Thank you. I assume you have the same type of compliments. Okay, all right. Please introduce yourself and who you represent.
I am Keelan Rubin, and I represent Strategic Housing Finance Corporation of Travis Well, good afternoon, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to comment on the proposed rulemaking for HB 21 today. As I stated, my name is Keelan Rubin, and I represent Strategic Housing Finance Corporation of Travis County. We are a public nonprofit under the oversight of the board of directors appointed by Travis County Board of Commissioners, and it's fair since we do not represent Travis County, we represent us as an HFC. Since January, we've been working with lawmakers, policy experts, and advocates, and industry experts to understand the impacts of HB 21 and how we might preserve the tool to facilitate the development of quality affordable housing. As you're aware, much is riding on the successful implementation of HB 21 monitoring compliance rules. As an active HFC, we learned at the TALPA conference that TDHCA had already convened a group of interested stakeholders. We're respectfully asking that the board consider directing staff to convene a second group of stakeholder working sessions before or during the public comment period that would enhance transparency and allow HFC users and ourselves to weigh in on complex reporting compliance issues in a collaborative setting. The topics in our commentary today are complex, so our feedback is necessarily summarized, but we'll also provide written commentary as well. Looking at the rules, specifically the rent reduction comparison methodology, when 90% of units are income restricted with equal distributions when 90% of units are income restricted with equal distribution, internal market rate symbols can be too small, especially in small properties with many floor plans. We propose allowing reasonable comparable external market rents when internal samples are insufficient and setting minimum sample size thresholds below which an alternative method is permitted.
Okay, Ms. Rubin, just to help you manage your time here, if you all have written comments on specific provisions of the rules, I'd suggest we get that in writing to staff. Because here, we're probably not going to get into the weeds, if you want, per se, on, so if you could kind of talk more universal comments. Okay.
Yes, we have specific recommendations that we can provide via writing to staff. But overall, we appreciate the collaboration from you all and allowing us to have your comments today. So thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks. And then again, this is what we're approving here is to publish and ask for public comment. So you still have plenty of time to participate in this.
I think everything else in my commentary is speaking to specific components of the rules.
Yeah,
so it might be
definitely. Yeah, exactly. Okay, great. Thank you for being here today.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'm ready to make a motion.
I'm ready to accept the motion.
Very well.
Did anyone else want to speak on this? Okay, no.
Very well.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I move the board approve for publication in the Texas Register for public comment the proposed new chapter of rules regarding Housing Finance Corporation compliance monitoring. All is described in the board action request and associated documents on this item.
Second.
And does that include the recent revisions that were proposed and described by Ms. Quackenbush?
Yes.
Yes, it includes the recent revisions provided by Ms. Steph Quackenbush. Thank you very much.
And is there a second?
Second.
Second. Okay, motion made by Ms. Faria, seconded by Mr. Harper. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thanks, Wendy. Item 25, presentation and discussion and possible action regarding awards from the 2025 Home ARP Nonprofit Capacity Building and Operating NOFA as amended. Ms. Cantu.
Good afternoon, my name is Naomi Cantu, I'm the Home ARP Director. As you may remember, Home American Rescue Plan, or Home ARP, is one-time funding provided for persons experiencing homelessness and other vulnerable populations. Before you today are two awards for nonprofit capacity building operating funds with reservations for non-congregate shelter applications. The 2025 nonprofit capacity building operating NOFA is being competitively awarded based on scores of community engagement and support, readiness to develop a new shelter, and commitment to submit a shelter application within 9 months of this potential award. There is approximately $14 million in non-congregate shelter, or NCS funds, that are eligible to be reserved, taking into account the current application under the 2024 NCS Invitation to Apply. I'm going to start with the first award and then continue to the second, unless there wants to be a motion on the first one. The first award presented today is from San Antonio Metropolitan Ministries, also called SAM Ministries. SAM Ministries was created in 1983 and has a history of emergency shelter operations and programs that help with long-term housing options such as homelessness prevention. Their current NCS program grew more than 100% in new capacity in 2023, while establishing an additional location. Staff recommends approval of the nonprofit capacity building and operating award for $374,857 and an NCS reservation for application of $7 million. The reservation of the NCS funds is pending an application submission within 9 months of this board and processing the application within 1 year. Staff recommends approval with conditions related to findings of their last fiscal audit. These conditions are certification of fiscal control and at least a quarterly reconciliation of our funds. The second award is for Denton County Friends of the Family. This organization was founded in 1980 to provide services to those impacted by domestic violence and sexual assault. They have a history of developing and operating an emergency shelter. Staff recommends the approval of nonprofit capacity building operating award for $375,143 and an NCS reservation of $7,005,338 for the Denton County Friends of the Family, which is the remaining funds available for the NOFA and in the NCS invitation to apply. Staff also recommends that the amounts might be increased about 17.1% to their original ask of NCS funds, which is $8.2 million, and the corresponding increase in capacity building funding, which is both listed in the action. With that, we will recommend those increases if additional funding becomes available for NCS based on the possible award of the pending application under review. With that, staff recommends approval, and we'll take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Naomi. I just want to make sure I understand. We're only at this point awarding those two amounts that we talked about, the 374 and the
375, that's correct.
Okay, so what's the concept of the reservation of the big $7 million, $8 million numbers?
So that's a reservation for application. So we're going to hold it and not offer it to other organizations while we get that application and process that application for the shelter.
So eventually these two organizations could be awarded the full amount, or how's that?
That's correct. And hopefully, a little bit over 9 months, I will be presenting again to the board for the award of the NCS after reviewing the applications.
Okay, but it's not a firm commitment we're making at this point.
Correct.
Okay. Is there a larger pool of funds still available after these two reservations?
For the nonprofit capacity building and operating, the funding will be fully used. We do have a pending application for up to $50 million for the NCS, for the non-congregate shelter that's in process. But after all consideration, there's no additional funding for programs.
Okay, but this is a special allocation anyhow. Okay, do any board members have questions for Ms. Cantu on this item? If not, I'll entertain a motion on item 25 of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move the board approve the awards of home art nonprofit capacity building and operating funds and the reservations of non-congregate shelter funds as described, conditioned, and authorized in the board action request, resolutions, and associated documents on this item.
Thank you. Motion made by Ms. Farias. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Harper. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thanks, Mayor. Okay, item 26, presentation, discussion, and possible action on a request for return and reallocation of tax credits under 10 Tax Section 11.65 related to credit returns resulting from force majeure events for retirement living for seniors. Mr. Goldberger.
Afternoon, Chairman, members of the board, Joshua Goldberger, Tax and Program Manager. Item 26 concerns retirement living for seniors, a 44-unit elderly development to be completed in Stephenville. The project was awarded housing tax credits in 2022. It was approved for force majeure treatment in 2023, leaving the current placement service deadline December 31st, 2025. Construction on this project began in late 2024 after the applicant had already experienced significant delays due to cost increases that necessitated a redesign of the project and an extended environmental clearance process required due to federal funding appeal. The events currently affecting the development are the result of excessive rainfall in Stephenville from March to July of this year, which hindered the progress of construction. Additionally, the July 4th flooding in Kerrville also caused the development to lose workers from the site who were diverted to disaster mitigation efforts in Kerr County and the surrounding area. Again, this project is actively under construction and has already made substantial progress. Staff received a new construction inspection report from applicants shortly after the board was posted, showing that the development is 75% complete, up from 55%. The developer has requested an extension of 6 months, establishing a new placement service deadline of June 30th, 2026. Based on that most recent report, they're pretty optimistic. Staff recommends approval, and the developer is present should you have any questions.
Okay, so this is a 6-month extension, not a 9-month? And we're 75% complete.
Yes. There was some discussion early on about whether a 9-month extension would be necessary.
Okay, that's what I was.
Yeah, the case comes close.
Okay. I think in this case, we understand there's been some environmental impacts to the process. Before getting more public comment, does anyone have any issue with the staff's recommendation for this particular force majeure? And so unless you really want to talk, I'll entertain a motion to accept the force majeure, okay? Anyone care to make a motion on item 26 of the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I move the board approve the requested treatment under an application of the force majeure rule to retirement living for seniors with a new placed in service date of June 30, 2026. All is described, conditioned, and authorized in the board action request, resolution, and associated documents on this item.
I'll second.
Motion made by Mr. Thomas, seconded by Ms. Conroy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Okay. Item 27, presentation, discussion, and possible action on a request for return and reallocation of tax credits under 10 Tax Section 11.65 related to credit returns resulting from force majeure events for retreat at Esther.
Item 27 concerns retreat at Esther, a 103-unit elderly development to be completed in Houston. The development received an award of 9% housing tax credits in 2024. As a result, the current placement service deadline is December 31st, 2026. Since the initial award of housing tax credits, the project experienced material delays due to disruptions in the tax credit equity market. The project received an equity quote of 87 cents at the time of application, but the market slowed significantly later in the year, and credit pricing dropped into the 70-cent range. The applicant was only able to secure an equity commitment at 80 cents in June of 2025. Y'all obviously recall hearing similar stories from other applicants. Many of our 2024 awardees have overcome some significant drops in credit pricing. For this development, that lower pricing did result in a pretty big funding gap, and to address this, the applicant pursued and was awarded the City of Houston Home Funds. While that award allows the project to remain financially feasible, adding a new federal funding source has delayed closing and introduced some additional requirements. The project is now expected to close in late October or early November 2025. With a 14-month construction timeline, construction is anticipated by around February 27. That completion is, of course, a few months deadline. To accommodate these delays, the developer is requesting a 6-month extension to the placement service deadline to June 30th, 2027. Staff recommends approval, and representatives of the development are present to
Okay, so for this one, we're not reducing the size of the development.
Yes.
They're not asking for more money from us.
No.
And they got a commitment from City of Houston for more cash to fill in that gap. The closing is set for
October, November is what was represented in the letter that the applicant may have.
I'll accept a nod if that's still the thing. I mean, come on, just make it official.
Good afternoon, board members. Samson Babalola, B-A-B-A-L-O-L-A, representing the Houston RELP, the ownership group for Retreat at Esther. To answer your question specifically, board member or chair, I'm sorry, we're looking to close here early November to mid-November. Only change in that from what we represented to staff is due to, fortunately, the government shutdown. This is a HUD 221D4 deal, and so we do have a commitment. It is being reviewed. It is in process of being reviewed. We've been told by our lender that as long as we have a commitment that our application is being reviewed. Unfortunately, with lower levels of staff, we can't guarantee that closing will happen by the end of October, which was initially projected.
Okay, but you have other than getting HUD's sign off, you have everything else committed in place and ready to go?
Yes, sir.
In my notes, I put 6 months sounds tight. If we do close in November, do we think, are we?
We're representing a 14-month construction timeline, so that should take us to February of 27. But if you members feel generous, we are coming across the holidays.
I guess I'm just worried about how long Schumer's going to keep the government closed. Well, okay. Do any board members have questions on this?
Obviously, staff can change recommendation to a full year extension if you think that's more appropriate.
Well, in this case, as I've asked for most, I'd rather come back at the end if you're, rather than us doing this way out in advance. But this one, it sounds like everything is ready to go. You're not changing the deal other than just that time. So I'm comfortable. Would anyone care to make is there something we should?
I just want to note a typo in the bar on the year. In the impact of board decision has 10% deadline of July 1, 2026 and June 30th, 2026. So I think that should be 27 for a 6-month extension. Okay.
Okay, so as with the noted correction to the bar. Would anyone care to make a motion on item 27?
I move the board approve the requested treatment of the application as force majeure rule for the retreat at Esther and a new place in service deadline of June 30th, 2027. All is described, conditioned, and authorized by the board action request resolution and associated documents in this item.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Harper, seconded by Ms. Farias. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
Good work, Bo.
It's a great catch, Bo.
Item 28, presentation, discussion, and possible action on a request for return and reallocation of tax credits under 10 tax section 11.65 related to credit returns resulting from force majeure events for in-town lofts.
Item 28 concerns in-town lofts, a fixed 56-unit development located in Lubbock. The project received an award of 9% tax credits in 2021 and has since been approved for force majeure treatment in 2022 and supplemental credits in 2023. As a result, the current deadline to place the development in service is December 31st, 2025. The project proposes the adaptive reuse of a historic Lubbock hotel and its adjacent new construction component. After significant delays due to COVID-19 and market volatility, the project closed and began construction in July of 24. It is currently 75% complete. While the new construction building is on track for completion, the adaptive reuse component is delayed due to extended state and federal historic review processes. While these reviews were anticipated, the applicant states that the final approvals have taken significantly longer than originally projected. Additionally, the applicant has reported lost days due to weather delays and the City of Lubbock building permit comment that is causing a delay in securing the final certificate of occupancy. To account for this range of delays that are more or less at the finish line for this project, the owner is requesting a 6-month extension of the place in service deadline to June 30th, 2026. They're requesting 6 months out of an abundance of caution and anticipating completing construction in April. Staff recommends approval and representatives of the development are present.
So when is actual completion anticipated?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Hi, board members, Jordan Finkelman, Housing Trust Group. The renovation building should be done, I want to say like January, February of 2026. And the new construction component should be done at the end of this month.
Okay, so that's at this point where you narrowed down to a
Correct. We're
tight range.
Overall 85% complete at this point as of today.
Okay, and are there any in-service deadlines or something that need to be meet or final CO and everything like that? Or I'm just asking, I mean, is it after you're complete, is there another delay process than getting the final local certificates of occupancy and such?
No, like when we complete, we'll just have the CO.
Okay, all right, so that's the February-ish time.
Correct.
It's not sometime after that. Okay. All right, so you're almost there. 2021 original.
Yeah, historic is no joke.
Okay. Do any board members have questions on this item? You're lucky we're in good moods today. I'll entertain a motion on item 28 of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move the board approve the requested treatment under an application of the force majeure rule to in-town lofts with a new placed in service deadline of June 30th, 2026. All is described, conditioned, and authorized in the board action request, resolution, and associated documents on this item.
Second.
Thank you. Motion made by Ms. Farias, seconded by Mr. Harper. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay. 29 of the agenda, presentation, discussion, and possible action on a request for return and reallocation of tax credits under 10 tax section 11.65 related to credit returns resulting from force majeure events for North Park Garden Villas.
Item 29 concerns North Park Garden Villas, 98-unit development to be located in Houston. The development received an award of housing tax credits in 2024, and as a result, the current deadline to place in service is December 31st, 2026. Unlike most 2024 awardees, this application was not awarded at the late July meeting. Instead, the project received a commitment of housing tax credits on October 7th, 74 days later, as more credits became available in the current cycle. We typically issue a small number of awards later in the year, the 9% program. While it's good to get return credits in the hands of the recipients who can use them, this does just mean that they have fewer days between the award date and the placement service deadline at the end of July. This particular project has an 18-month construction timeline, so that late commitment provided a very tight timeline to plan, permits, close, and construct the development in accordance with the original placement service deadline. In addition to that late award, the applicant did experience some delays in the planning and permitting phase due to lengthy reviews and approvals from Harris County plat, site development plans, and building plans. Those delays ultimately pushed the closing from an initial target date of June 2025 to the end of August. This project did close and begin construction in September. Completion is scheduled for early 2027. The developer is requesting a 6-month extension to June 30, 2027.
Okay.
Says that the development, our first president should do it.
Okay, but it's closed, its construction's commenced.
That's correct.
We're
on our way.
on the way. Okay, and it was a late,
Yes.
yeah, it wasn't early, but, okay. Anyone have questions for this item? If not, I'll entertain a motion on item 29 of the agenda.
I move the board approve the requested treatment under the application of force majeure rule for the North Park Garden Villas with a new place and service deadline of June 30th, 2027. All is described, conditioned, and authorized in the board action request, resolution, and associated documents on this item.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Harper, seconded by Ms. Farias. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Josh. Item 30, we're getting there, guys. Presentation, discussion, and possible action on a request. Wait, am I reading this right? Because like, what are you up there for? Okay, all right. Presentation, discussion, and possible action on a request for return and reallocation of tax credits under 10 Tax Section 11.65 related to credit returns resulting from force majeure events for Andover Village. Mr. Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Vasquez. Cody Campbell, Director of Multifamily Programs for the department. This one's a little bit more complicated than the last ones that you've heard. I know that we're all getting hungry, so I'm going to try to fit as much information into as short a period of time as I can. This is a 2024 9% housing tax credit award that received $2 million to construct 120 units in Houston. In January of 2024, so 3 months before the application is due, they got their phase 1 environmental site assessment. Because the site was located close to the previous location, the dry cleaner and a gas station, the directed to phase 2. So at the end of that same month, they got their phase 2 environmental site assessment. Based on that assessment, there does not appear to be any soil contamination, but there is some minor contamination of the water at the corner of the site, the groundwater at the corner of the site that is closest to where the dry cleaner was. Because of that, in April of that year, so 3 months before they had their award, they pursued an innocent owner certification from the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, TCEQ. This certificate is important because it releases them from the liability of that groundwater contamination. Unfortunately, the process of obtaining that certification is ongoing, so they don't have it as of yet. Without that certificate, the partnership cannot close into the land, which means that the developer cannot meet what's called their 10% test, which is due at the latest in December of this year. The 10% test is the deadline by which they must have expended 10% of their reasonably expected basis, otherwise the award is terminated. And so it leaves them in kind of a tight spot. Ordinarily, we don't bring force majeure requests to you until we have dates certain. We expect the closing to happen on this date, construction is on this date, and construction end on whatever date in the future, and I don't have that date for you now. The The reason that this request is in front of you is because without the extension, the developer will fail the 10% test, and the development will be done for him. There's nowhere to go from there. Staff recommends that you approve this request, although we expect that you will have questions about this and be prepared to answer anything you may have, or if you can't, you have representatives of the developer here as well.
Okay, so we're still waiting for some sort of environmental, not our fault clearance?
Yes, sir. It's the excellent certificate, TCE.
Okay. This is sort of a different direction on the questioning, but this, and maybe the developer needs to answer this, the contamination or potential detected contamination on the property is isolated. I mean, I hesitate to get us committed to another 800 middle type situation where, here, let's give more tax credits to it. Someplace that's on a contaminated site.
I'd be happy to answer that question, and anything would be better to come from the developer, just repeating what they told me anyway. But, my understanding is that the contamination of groundwater is limited to a certain area of the site, and that the site won't be drawing on the groundwater, so there's, not an immediate exposure to the tenants. But
Yeah, maybe we should hear from Ms. Rickenbacker.
Good afternoon, Don Rickenbacker. If you don't mind, before I get started, I also want to talk about one of the agenda items that dealt with the ineligibility because of crime, and you mentioned OST Lofts. OST Lofts is a development that's located about 2.2 miles straight line from this other property, but more importantly, it's on the other side of Old Spanish Trail and on the opposite side of Interstate 45. It's in a completely different neighborhood, completely different crime. So
We've funded you already on that. Okay, let's go on to the next. Okay, all right.
I just didn't want y'all to have high crime where I've got a beautiful development.
It is beautiful.
I wanted to talk obviously about our request before you right now. So the innocent owner, first of all, this development is also inclusive of a standalone pre-kindergarten school component. So when we received our our phase one, that's obviously required in connection with the application itself, which is due in March of that year, 24, there was some recognized environmental concerns. So I said, immediately, let's just get going on a phase two so I can figure out what we've got going on over here. So very long story short, we did a lot of testing. I was not going to move forward if we had any kind of environmental issues on this property. That made no sense. I wouldn't be doing that. I'm too conservative with my developments, and certainly ones that have standalone pre-K school components. That being said, we did a phase two. It did recognize a couple of hot spots, if you will, on the eastern boundary of the property, which is adjacent to the street system, Belfort. Again, I immediately said, let's just do some additional testing just to find out with certainty where it's coming from and what it impacts. So that additional testing was also performed. I paid for all that. I wanted to make sure, again, that we were not developing our side. If we were awarded the tax credits, I would have given them back. So there is no, excuse me, there's no soil contamination on our property. It is limited, exclusively, a very minor amount to the groundwater along that eastern boundary, again, adjacent to the street system. It originated from a former laundromat on the other side of this four-way street system. And, it is what it is. It's in the groundwater, and it's very minor, if you will, when it gets to our side of the property, but that's where it is. So when I saw this, I thought, okay, they said that they thought we could qualify for an innocent owner certificate. I said, absolutely. So we moved forward with the innocent owner certificate as quickly as we could, recognizing that other applicants that had similar issues with the TCEQ took them a while to get that certificate. So I started that action in April of 2024 before I was even awarded the housing tax credits, just to keep it going. And here I am at this late time, still without my innocent owner certificate from the TCEQ. I would have brought this to you all in July, but Chairman, you want certainty of when we are commencing construction. And I don't blame you. I recognize that. I couldn't give you that certainty. We're now running up against the 10% test deadline, and I still don't have that certainty. But because of that 10% test deadline, that's why I'm seeking this request from you all today. We are doing our best. They say, of course, this isn't the first time, that we should have it no later than the end of November. If that happens, then I still need to go back out, rebid this job. So the likelihood that it gets closed this year, it won't happen. And the reason for the 1-year request.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Martian.
Who owns the land?
I do. I
So-
have to take down the land.
So that doesn't count towards the 10%?
No.
It's not the partnership. A 10% test is more than that. I have to prove up that I've got at least 10% in the development. So that would assume that you've got construction activity taking place, which we don't.
And you still don't have a target of any certainty of when you're going to be able to start.
Correct. Very unfortunate. Again, I'm pushing and pushing and pushing to see if we could get this, you know, and the reason why I asked for the 1 year as opposed to 6 months. But it is what it is, and I'm doing my best to get the TCEQ to issue that instant owner certificate. Again, I don't think that this is unique. There's been others that have come before you in similar situations where this environmental condition closed.
Yeah, we heard from others about TCQ. Find people over there, like one of those commissioners a lot.
Okay, and the playground of the preschool isn't going to be located on that side.
No, sir.
So we're not going to have little preschoolers eating grass. So
No, sir.
okay. Do any other
None
board?
of our improvements are located over in that area. Again, that's actually an easement portion that's adjacent to the street.
Okay. So this is really force majeure. It's just, hey, it's delayed. We're waiting for all these. But you're not changing the project, the number of units and all that yet.
I hope not.
Do any board members have questions? If not, Mr. Harper, do you have a motion?
I do. I move the board approve the requested treatment under the application as force majeure rule for Andover Village with a new place in service deadline of December 31st, 2027. All is described, conditioned, and authorizing the board action request resolution and associated documents this item.
Second.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Motion made by Mr. Harper, seconded by Ms. Farias. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
Now I can say thank you very much.
Get her done.
Thank you.
Item 31, correct? Of the agenda, presentation, discussion, and possible action on a request for return and reallocation of tax credits under 10 tax section 11.65, related to credit returns resulting from force majeure events for Sunset Ridge.
This one is pretty straightforward. So Sunset Ridge is a 2024 9% awardee in Burnett. They got 850,000 credits for the construction of 36 units. The application originally relied on the Burnett ISD granting them a drainage easement. And after the catastrophic floods this summer, the ISD decided that they were going to conduct their own flood study before they granted such an easement. That study is anticipated to take into 2026 to be completed. Not wanting to wait that long to start on construction, the developer is instead redesigning the site to add their own detention pond. And with that, they should be able to start construction very soon. They provided me a construction schedule recently, unfortunately, the exact report were posted. The current schedule anticipates that they will start construction on November 17th, with a 424-day construction period, which will end on January 11th of 2027. What is kind of odd about this request is they're currently scheduled to miss their place in service deadline by 11 days, but they are requesting a full year. Staff does question that that year is really necessary. I've spoken with a representative of the developer, and the investor in this project is really pushing to get a year, which is why the request is coming in that way. We do recommend that you approve the request. We have discussed with them, and we anticipate there will be questions about the length of the extensions. Available for any questions as we
I was going to ask a similar question about why the full year. I mean, is everything else in place, ready to go? I mean,
They
just
are anticipating starting construction on November 7th. I don't think they've closed yet because the investor is waiting for this approval before they move forward. Am I saying that correct?
okay.
So, yes.
So, do you want to come and Robbie give it?
Robbie Meyer, I'm with Arts Advantage and I represent the applicant. I have the same question. It is Boston Financial is the investor. I pleaded with them for the 6 months. Their credit committee was very adamant for the year, just in case there's any other delays, if you have any delays in materials or anything like that. They just want that certainty at the end of the day. They're pushing the year, so I would stand up here and ask. But it is the investor that's pushing for the year. This is a very proven applicant. I've been in the business for 20 years plus. And I believe they will make their construction schedule barring any other difficulties. You know, can't say anything about materials or weather or anything like that. But I mean, they're going to push it to get it done as quick as possible. It doesn't help them to come away. But I think they'll make it 6 months. But
I mean, so theoretically, you could push the construction period and get it done in time, right? I mean, it's alternatively.
They can get it done quicker probably, but that is the construction schedule.
Yeah, exactly. If everything works.
Right after January of 2027. And so that does make it a little bit difficult to try to push, to get it done quicker, because the normal construction schedule does put it past that date. And the investor is pushing for an extension now instead of waiting until then. So that is the push that the investor is asking for those extra months.
If we say 6 months is plenty, does Boston Financial go away?
I hope not. I told them they need to be prepared for that.
Are they giving really great pricing? Just
I'm still, prices not great anywhere.
78 cents. 78.
Is that in the bar? Okay, again, I'm open to being overridden by the majority of the board, but it sounds to me like you can make the original deadline, but so an extra 6 months is probably sufficient and gives incentive to keep the project on track and get it done. That's why we have these deadlines. Do any board members feel differently? So I guess what's the official bar request right now? Is it requested recommended by staff at a year?
Yes, sir. Yes. With kind of a question mark at the end of it.
Yeah. Okay, so does a board member wish to make a motion? Ms. Farias.
I'll go first. Let's see where it gets me. I move the board approve the requested treatment under an application of the force majeure rule to Sunset Ridge with a new placed in service deadline of December 31st, 2027, all as described, conditioned, and authorized in the board action request, resolution, and associated documents on this item.
Second.
Okay, so that's as per the bar with 12 months. Okay, motion made by Ms. Faria, seconded by Mr. Harper. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? I need some verbal acknowledgements on these. Okay, so,
Yes, no.
so Mr. Martian is opposed to is voting against the motion. Ms. Conroy?
It's for 6 months?
It's for a year.
It's for a year? I want to be opposed to it, but because I'm really just tired of hearing other people dictate our terms. So I'm going to vote with Mr. Marshall.
Okay, so that's
Opposed.
another no. Mr. Thomas, if it didn't make a difference, I was going to vote no. But, so,
I'm a no.
okay, four
Get
no's,
quiet.
two ayes, the motion fails. Would anyone care to make a revised motion? Like for the 6-month extension period?
I can try. My trustee look at it.
Yeah, you would just replace it with a
June 30th, 2026.
Yeah. My motion would be to approve it for the June 30th, 2027.
Be 2026.
I move the board approve the requested treatment under an application for force majeure rule to Sunset Ridge with a new placed in service deadline of June 2027.
June 30th.
30th. Of June 30th of 2027. All as described condition and authorized by the board action resolution documents on this item.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Martian. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Thomas. All those in favor for the motion as at a 6-month extension, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, so motion carries 5-1. We're at the 6 months.
Could I ask one thing, because I know Boston Financial's probably watching this. If for some reason we have to come back, is there a big objection for us to be able to come back at the end of the day? I know there's been others on today's agenda. I just want to make sure that the board's not objected if we have to come back and we're 90% complete and all of that. I mean, I've never seen this board deny that.
I
and just
think
wanna try to-
that the board has shown, obviously, if you're 75%, 90% in February of 2027 and you're really worried about coming up to it, come back to us, and I think we've indicated we're pretty reasonable, but it's not a guarantee.
Not a member,
It's
but
not a guarantee.
just an observation of this board. I think the only one that they voted down was someone who's stuck in endless litigation and couldn't even get started. So every other time, they've been very reasonable.
That's the clarification.
Yeah, no, I'm betting y'all are going to make the December 31st, 26 anyway. Okay. Okay, we're done with the regular. The board has addressed the posted agenda items. Now is the time of the meeting when members of the public can raise issues with the board on matters of relevance to the department's business or make requests that the board place specific items on future agendas for consideration. Is there anyone who would like to provide public comment at this time?
Good afternoon, my name is Erin Khan, I'm with Texas Houses. We wanted to share our concerns about how opportunity zones were added into the QAP this year. And we wanted to raise this now, even though the board can't take action on this today, rather than waiting until November, just because we believe this is a significant change that deserves some reconsideration. So at the September meeting, the board heard a request to include opportunity zones in the concerted revitalization plan section, and that was incorporated into the draft QAP. We're not opposed to including opportunity zones in the QAP, but we are very concerned with how they've been added. Previously, a development in an area with a concerted revitalization plan could receive 7 points. Now, with the new draft that would also award 7 points for development in opportunity zone. But opportunity zones and revitalization plans shouldn't be treated as equal alternatives. Opportunity zones are low income, high poverty census tracts that have been designated by the governor as needing investment, but there's no guarantee necessarily that a plan exists to execute that investment that would improve conditions for residents in these areas. So awarding full points for simply being in an opportunity zone without that planning framework removes the safeguards that ensure that housing tax credit developments in high poverty areas are part of the larger real community-driven revitalization effort. Opportunity zones lack the local oversight and community buy-in that revitalization plans provide, and they don't inherently address the challenges that historically disinvested areas typically face, like limited access to jobs, transportation, healthcare, high-quality schools. And TDHCA has long worked to balance expanding access to high opportunity areas with supporting meaningful revitalization in disinvested neighborhoods. But we believe this change undermines that balance. And creating an avenue to incentivize development in high poverty census tracts without meaningful revitalization will take a step backwards toward since efforts since TDHCA versus ICP to better direct developments in higher opportunity areas. And so we believe the current language kind of misrepresents the role of opportunity zones. Rather than serving as an alternative to a revitalization plan, opportunity zones we believe should be treated like qualified census tracts, another type of low-income, high-poverty area where development can occur only if there's a plan in place to make sure that revitalization is benefiting residents. So we believe the revitalization plan should still be required for developments in opportunity zones to receive the full points. And we know there's limited time to make changes, but wanted to offer this approach that gets definitions right. Thank you for your consideration at the end of the meeting. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, well, thank you, Aaron. Actually, we can't engage in debate in this section, but make sure all the comments are submitted for the
Please submit written comments.
Yeah. And thanks for being patient to wait until the whole meeting. Yeah. Would anyone else care to make a comment? Great. So we've completed the agenda. The next scheduled meeting of the governing board, which I shall dub the Jefferson's meeting as we're moving on up, is at 10 a.m. on Thursday, November 6th, 2025 at the Omni Austin Hotel downtown. So that's at 700 San Jacinto Street in the Pennybacher room, I've been told. Does it still stand? Okay, so.
Mr. Chairman, do you anticipate any meetings on Wednesday?
Do we have any committee meetings scheduled for November 5th? Wednesday? I don't believe so on this one.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes, sir. I think so.
But we'll schedule one if you want.
No,
okay. All right. You got QAP committee right there. Yeah. Okay. All right. So tell all your friends we're going to another place again. It is now 1:27 p.m. and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.